Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another angst-ridden edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. I've had an epiphany today on how to watch modern wrestling, and we're going to talk about it because today, after 2 weeks of Fighter Fest, All Petite Wrestling has given us Fight for the Fallen, and we're going to ask All Elite Wrestling to get the F out. Meanwhile, NXT has the friendliest grudge match I've ever seen. Yes, today, folks, we're going to laugh. If we don't, then we'll cry. And joining me in this, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard podcast network, Mr. Co-host to you, Swammy's Pappy, the former proprietor of the French Toast Chateau, now closed down completely due to the dangers of indoor dining. But he sounds meaner than Keith Lee. He looks tougher than Marco Stunt, and he's not scared of orange juice. The great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again for a freshly squeezed edition of The Experience.
Oh, they're not only squeezing us, they're milking us right off. They're milking us right into the bucket, baby. You know, I finally figured out, at the top of the program here, I'm going to say it, I finally figured out something about how these people think. The old line when Jerry Jarrett was sitting in the locker room with Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler in Memphis one night, the whole Memphis crew. And they were talking about how the Pafos were running opposition to him and how Randy Savage was making all the challenges, and they were billing those guys as appearing on the ICW programs, and they wouldn't show up, and people would be mad, and they spent all their time challenging them and talking about them. So it made them look so second place, right? In hindsight, it was a very bad promotional strategy, but at the time they were right in the middle of it, and they're all shaking their heads. And Jerry Jarrett says, I just don't understand how stupid people think. And then Sputnik Monroe jumps up and says, well, hell, Jerry, I'll tell you how stupid people think. And then he realized what he said. He said everybody laughed at him, and old Sput sat back down. But I have figured out how stupid people think. I'm going to postulate to you a theory, Brian Last, and you do not need to be in any way sycophantic here. If you disagree with any of the facts or suppositions that I promulgate to you, please do so. But if it sounds like a reasonable statement I'm making, then you can nod in concurrence. AEW wrestling, in the locker room, the talent roster is populated by probably a higher percentage than most promotions of people who are of the wrestling should be silly and fun and entertaining crowd, right? You would say that.
I'm nodding my head in concurrence, yes.
Okay, well, this is audio, so help us out here with a little fucking video or audio concurrence. You would also say that the roster is populated with a higher percentage than most promotions of people who have had matches with underage children, invisible men, inanimate objects, and teleported from different dimensions and things of that nature. You would concur with that?
Possibly more than any other roster in wrestling history, yes.
And you would concur with that their roster, in most cases, after one of these occurrences or performances or committals of these acts, or however you want to phrase it, they will then go on social media and talk about how that people who weren't entertained by this festive, this entertaining, silly and fun and wacky and zany environment that we've created just have no souls. You would concur with that?
Yes, there's one person who's done that specifically in AEW, so I would concur.
So if wrestling is supposed to be silly and fun and all for show and entertaining, and the matches or the performances that these people have a heavy dose of that in order to get people to have fun and make fun and be silly and mocky and jokey, then why is it that those people and the fans of those people who enjoy the silly, fun, phony wrestling they are the ones that when you actually point out and mock and make fun of and make mockery of them and their efforts in trying to perpetrate professional wrestling, they're the ones that lose their freaking minds. Lose their fucking minds. Lose their rabbit ass motherfucking minds. And finally, I've figured it out. Because they know they can't do this shit right. But they also know that if they make us think that what they are doing in attempting to do it is right, and they're doing this funny fucking silly bullshit on purpose, then someone will applaud them for a great parody of what they're trying to perpetrate, and in some cases fornicate, in the first place. I think I've figured it out. So you can't make fun of what they do or who they are or who they act like unless they want you to in the way that they are making fun of whatever it is in the match or whatever that they are perpetrating. So it's a very fine line there.
That's right. You're supposed to, at this point in time in 2020, accept anything under the guise of professional wrestling because it's an open business and all wrestling is good. Just root for all wrestling. However, if you don't like it, you're scum of the earth.
Scum of the earth, baby. Scum of the earth. Anyway, a sloppy shop. We'll talk more about the sloppy shop over there later on. I have to do an update on a very professional shop. I will have you know that at Cornette's Collectibles, which obviously is not a sloppy, but a very professionally run organization consisting of the firm of me, myself, and I. If you've ordered the limited edition Christmas action figure domestically, they've all been sent out. As I mentioned on the drive-through this past week, actually I lied because 9 of them wouldn't fit in the box on the dolly on that trip to the post office, so they went out yesterday. But they've all been sent out. And at 33% of the international orders have been sent out, and the other 67%, that one guy, he's going to lose out on 1% there somewhere. Anyway, they're going to be out by Saturday morning, July 18, July 18, Saturday morning. Thank you for jumping in and saying,
help me.
Help me, jump back. Got to kiss myself one time. Anyway. They're going to be out by Saturday, which is a wonderful thing. And, of course, the internationals, please allow extra time due to the virus. Other countries still do have some little parts of the virus, just not a fucking plague like the United States. But anyway, and just in time, too, because I don't want to cause a panic. But if you move in an orderly fashion toward the internet, the Cornette's Collectible store at jimcornette.com should be, unless one individual has been hit by a bus that needs to push a button in the morning, it should be now up and open for business. I say that in a low-key manner, not to incite any sudden moves. But yes, the store is open, should be open, hopefully will be open by the time you hear this, at jimcornette.com. How long, we will not say. I will make no promises. No, I said this before on the program, and I want to reiterate for the new listeners. I refuse to not provide personal service to my Cult of Cornette customers. I wanted to provide high-quality merchandise at affordable prices and personal service in a timely fashion. Well, timely fashion lately has gone out the window. But I still want the high-quality merchandise at the affordable prices and the personal service. So, like I've said before, you don't order a Stone CD and Mick put it in the envelope himself. So you're going to, folks, from now on, allow 2 to 3 weeks for delivery. They used to say that on the TV commercials all the time. Nobody batted an eye. It wasn't until the internet came along. Everything's supposed to be here yesterday. But allow 2 to 3 weeks for delivery. And we're going to stay open as long as we can keep that schedule up, and there may be points in time in the future where we close down for periods because, and especially right before we get our new website, which is obviously still being discussed, and we're a bigger server, better shopping cart. I'm learning all these terms. But unfortunately, Brian, I did lie when I said I wasn't going to price gouge the people. I was going to keep affordable prices. I lied in part. A huge price raise coming on a couple of items. Are you braced for this? Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Autographed 8x10 color photos of me in various stages of my career. There's only a couple up now, but new ones are coming soon. We've had a change in printers due to the COVID. They were $10 plus $2 shipping, Brian, because I've said before, these fucking people that sell their fucking autograph pictures for $50 and $100, well, fuck you, then you don't need the money. You don't need to be selling your goddamn autograph pictures at all. If you're going to charge somebody $75 for a fucking 8x10 you've scribbled on with a Sharpie, fuck you. So, I like to make these things affordable for the cult members that can hang something on their wall and remember me, right? Put me in their mind in times of trial and tribulation. Well, that price is being raised all the way up to $12, Brian. $12 for a color 8x10 on heavy card stock. As a matter of fact, hold on here. I don't know if I've let people hear that heavy card stock whistling in the breeze lately. And the Cult of Cornette membership certificates that formerly were $10 that you can hang up on your wall, that I write your name on and I sign, signifying that you are indeed an official member of the Cult of Cornette with a beautiful and inspiring portrait of me, as well as the Cult of Cornette Pledge of Allegiance, which we haven't done here in a while. Just to make sure y'all remember, we pledge allegiance to the leader of the mighty Cult of Cornette and to the pro wrestling for which he stands. No blow-up dolls, dick spots, or dance routines with blood sellouts and shoot angles for all. That prized piece of merchandise now going for the exorbitant price of $12 plus shipping.
Well, you may have to make an edit on that, considering I don't think we'll ever be seeing the dick spot again.
Well, it's in my goddamn thing now, so we're gonna live with it. It's we remember it fondly as something not to do. $12 now for those, not $10. I'm sorry, folks, if you think I'm a carpetbagger or a price gouger in these times of trial and tribulation. And also, there will be a $2 rise in the cost of a large, extra large, and 2XL t-shirts. $2.
Well, those are existing products that you're raising the price on. You still haven't told the listeners about the brand new product.
There won't be any goddamn new products for the next few until we get the new website, because we're not going to break this one again.
No. There's a new product.
What new product?
Based on the popularity of one of the segments from this week's drive-thru, Jim Cornette Greetings on Call, now available. We have a sample right here.
I said, goddamn, this is Jim Cornette calling from Castle Cornette. My co-host, the great Brian Last, and I are calling for...
Dixie. 1 second, Jim Cornette. I've got to find out something. Please let us know if you have a touch-tone phone by pressing 1 now.
Goddamn, who doesn't have a touch-tone phone nowadays? Hello.
Dixie.
Hello, birthday girl. This is Jim Cornette. My co-host, the great Brian Last, asked me to call you and give you this special message because he dug up in the dirt sheets that it's your birthday. Here he comes now from the headquarters of the Arcadian Vanguard podcasting network to try to shed some light on this special day.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you. I said, goddamn. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Dixie.
Happy birthday to you, motherfucker. Now can I get back to my shit? Gotta get ready for the post office tomorrow.
Well, once again, another submission by Rocky the Ramon sent into the program.
Rocky, he can do the comedy records as well as the musical submissions or emissions in some cases. Oh, that was from 1990. What was it? 4?
Yes, because it was right after The Undertaker died and rose to the heavens at the Royal Rumble. He came back to record the message, they said.
They actually sanctioned, and Paul Bearer did most of it. But they actually sanctioned those for a brief moment until probably somebody realized, what the fuck are we doing? Oh, you got to listen to the drive-thru, folks. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's fucking hilarious.
Or the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. It's up there right now.
Well, there you go. You can go there and you'll be right as rain. Finer than frog's hair. And by the way, a programming note on the drive-thru since we mentioned it. A good segue here. We don't come across those very often. This coming week's drive-thru will not be out on Monday. It will be out on Tuesday because we are going to accept the challenge of watching the WWE Eye for an Eye, Lance, pay-per-view and see how the fuck they're going to do this and how stupid it's going to look or the aftermath of same when one guy has to walk around for the rest of his life with no eyeball in his fucking head.
Well, again, they didn't say that the eyeball has to be detached from the body.
Oh, God damn it.
Just it has to be taken out of the socket.
God damn it. It just...
This could be a thing for the future. Every now and then a guy takes a shot in the match and his eye pops out. They have to pause the match and pop it back into place. And you're forgetting the swamp fight. There'll be a fight in the swamp.
Who's fighting in the swamp?
Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. All at Extreme Rules horror show. And boy, has a pay-per-view never been properly named before.
More aptly, yeah. I might like to see Cameron Grimes in a swamp fight, but I don't know. Braun Strowman has not scintillated the cockles of my fucking wrestling fan's heart yet, and Bray Wyatt in a fucking swamp, I see teleportation. But anyway, if we see it, you're going to hear about it next week on the drive-thru. It'll be one day late to give us time to digest that information, and also a programming note that everybody should be watching. Do you know now? Do you have Heroes and Icons on your cable vision up there on your cable system?
I think so. It used to be Antenna TV?
No, you're way off. See, you spend too much time editing.
Is it CBS?
No. What the fuck, CBS or Antenna TV? What are you fucking talking about?
CBS had a digital channel called Antenna TV where they had a show called Heroes and Icons, didn't they?
No, see, you're fucking conflating all kinds of things, and I'm glad that you know you're wrestling because your fucking current television networks is all fucked up. Antenna TV is much like MeTV, is much like Cozy TV. It is a digital channels, the secondary channels of local broadcast channels in markets that are affiliated with the major networks. However,
CBS.
Or NBC or fucking Fox or whatever the fuck. It is not just limited to CBS. But there is also a cable network now called Heroes and Icons. It's actually Handy TV or something. It's on the cable system there. It's HANDI, Heroes and Icons, Handy TV, right? However, it's its own network. What are you laughing at?
That is the worst name I've ever heard for a TV channel. Handy TV?
Yeah, they give you a handy. Every time you sit down on your couch, you want to watch some TV and relax, there's a handy for you. Right there. That's a safe bet every time. But no, they are in HD. Right? It's a big time network, and they have, not only do they have classic shows like Star Trek remastered in HD of the evening, but they're playing Batman and Superman on weekend mornings. I think it may be Sunday morning. Green Hornets on. They doing all the classic series. But now every Sunday afternoon is a marathon of the Untouchables. The Robert Stack, Desilu production, fucking had heat with the goddamn mafia, most violent television program of its time, The Untouchables. They're late in the first season right now, but I've caught up with it. And holy jumping shitballs, what a good show that is. I have many of the seasons on DVD. I used to take them down and watch them in Orlando, and I was sitting in that fucking hotel for TNA on my DVD player.
It's too bad Elliot Ness didn't raid that locker room, shut down that office.
Well, this might be a job later on in the program for Elliot Ness to try to figure out. The government, the G-men need to step in and figure out what's going on over on the cable access network. But I used to, what? Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you like those classic Superman episodes? I love those.
No, I fucking hate them.
What?
You know why?
No.
Find me a supervillain.
Well, okay, that's a fair point.
They didn't use any of the supervillains. They were crediting DC Comics, and the show was on the air for, 6 seasons. It started in black and white, then it went to color. Occasionally there was a Martian, but it wasn't even a fucking Brainiac or something. It was just a generic Martian, and most of the time he's just fighting generic gangsters or the guy, the mobster who enclosed himself in a lead box so Superman couldn't see who he was inside of it. What the fuck?
You like the Untouchables? They're fighting gangsters.
Well, that's because they're gangsters. Elliot Ness wasn't fucking Superman from Krypton. He was not the son of Jor-El from Krypton. He was not a man with powers and abilities above those of mortal man, Superman, who could bend mighty steel bars in his bare hand, change the course of mighty rivers, and who disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, led a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. He was just a fucking G-man.
What do you prefer? George Reeves' version of Clark Kent?
I don't think George Reeves has been a virgin since we've ever been around.
His version of Clark Kent, or Christopher Reeve playing Clark Kent as the bumbling Clark Kent?
Christopher Reeve.
Really?
Christopher. Yes, Christopher Reeve, a wheelchair fellow. Yes.
Well,
you said really,
I don't call him that, but the one from
George Reeves, because George Reeves, there was a wink in the eye. It was preposterous. Even Jimmy Olsen couldn't have been that stupid. He's always dropping clues. I thought they did a poor job with that television program.
I can't believe this.
Where Christopher Reeve, that's what he was supposed to be like. Clark Kent was a bumbling fucking fellow who couldn't possibly be Superman. And at the same time, a guy that you would think would not use his X-ray vision to look at Lois Lane and every other woman at the Daily Planet with no clothes on. That's the way. I was not a fan of the Superman TV series. Batman obviously was iconic. Green Hornet was a little fucking dry, to be honest. Dry as a nun's cunt, as they used to say down south.
The Superman TV show was pretty iconic too. Did you like Superman on I Love Lucy?
Well, that had some life to it. Superman, that show needed Lucy's budget and Lucy's writers.
Have you ever seen the Fleischer cartoons of Superman from the 30s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were from the 40s, World War II years. Were they not?
Well, yeah. You know what? The second season was more about World War II. The first season, it was like demon professors and shit. But yeah, I love those. Those are probably the most beautiful cartoons ever.
They did a wonderful job with the early Popeyes in color also, the Fleischer studio.
The early Popeyes in black and white are amazing too.
Yeah, well, but I mean, you were talking about the color, etc.
Well, because they did 3D models. I don't know if you ever saw, they did a Popeye. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was Popeye against Alibaba or something. And they actually built a little set so it looked 3D. So you see Popeye walking, and there's things that aren't drawn. There's an actual little set.
Yes, it has depth to it. I didn't know that's how they did that, but I know the effect that they got because I've seen that. Yeah. The cartoons, there's another thing. Now South Park is witty as all fuck, but they're just fucking putting goddamn construction paper on a background these days.
The Mickey Mouse shorts that they currently do, I watch them with the kids. They're surprisingly awesome because they take elements of the originals of Mickey Mouse. They take like a lot of the artwork and the elements, and they just kind of dress it up in a way that's modern but doesn't feel modern. They're really incredible. The current Mickey Mouse shorts, which exist, they would probably really surprise you how good they are.
How did we go from Elliot Ness to Mickey Mouse in the twinkling of an eye? Oh, you got Superman in the middle there.
That's right. Do you like the films?
Within reason. I haven't said, well, after the first, one or two, I haven't really seen a ton of them since then.
Well, there was only 4 of the original ones. 1 and 2 were filmed at the same time, but then after 1 came out, they fired Richard Donner from the film and had Dick Lester, famously of Hard Day's Night and Help, fill in. That's when all of a sudden, like, all the comedy stuff started appearing in those
That's
films.
what, yeah, I didn't, yeah, all of a sudden it was
Richard Pryor, yeah.
Richard Pryor was, yeah, that's what they lost me there with that. They made Superman funny, too. And see, that's one thing about Elliot Ness and the Untouchables. Nothing was funny. They were fucking shooting people and beating people up and pistol whipping motherfuckers. Their faces are all beat up and bloody, and they're threatening to rape their wives. That was a great TV fucking program, besides the fact they had great vehicles and wonderful music.
Robert Stack.
Dun, 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 dun.
Robert Stack also in one of the very worst movies of all time, Caddyshack 2. Where they couldn't get Rodney, they got Jackie Mason, and Ted Knight was gone, so they got Robert Stack. It was so bad. It's the worst movie ever.
Yeah, that movie was untouchable also. I used to do that in the car. The Walter Winchell voiceover to Pop the Midnight Express. Late that night, in the Southside Chicago apartment of Frank Nitti, Al Capone's gangland enforcer, Nitti and his thugs plotted the overthrow of the city of Chicago. Right? Shit like that. So one day we're sitting in fucking Greenville, South Carolina. And this was during the period, and you probably, 88 was when Vladimir Pietrov showed up, right? The dark period in
87.
early 88. Late 87. Yeah, okay. Point is, it's late 87, early 88. The fucking business is down. And also now they've absorbed all the other territories, UWF and Kansas City. So they're doing TV tapings all over the place, right? So Greenville, South Carolina, one of the backbone towns of Crockett's promotion, we'd go down there 100 miles from Charlotte every Monday night, the Greenville Memorial Auditorium, and have 3,000 or 4,000 people. So the record house we did in 86 was $62,000 there. And it was always a great town. Well, they'd fucking give it so many B shows and shitty cards that it was down to $3,800 one night. Where it was like the Midnight Express against maybe the New Breed, and the main event was Vladimir Pietrov against, I think, didn't they turn Ivan babyface finally on the New Russian or something like that?
No, he turned babyface in 88. They had masked Russian assassins.
Then who would Vladimir, would he have still been working with Nikita at that point?
Probably, yeah, 87.
Okay,
yeah.
Then that's what the main event was. It was Vladimir Pietrov versus Nikita Koloff, the battle of the former evil Russian and the current evil Russian. $3,800 in Greenville, South Carolina. So we're all sitting there in the fucking locker room just with our hands in our heads because this is going to be like a $75 fucking night. And I said, late that night, in the Southside Chicago apartment of Frank Nitti, Al Capone's gangland enforcer, Nitti and his thugs plotted the murder of Greenville, South Carolina. Little did they know that noted Minnesota thug Big Al Blake, a.k.a. Vladimir Pietrov, had already killed the town the week before. And fucking, he looks at me like, what the fuck? You're accusing me of killing it? And all the boys are laughing at him, and he kind of just like put his head down.
You never met Lenny Montana, did you?
I never did.
Because obviously he was the real deal.
Yeah, you can check that off your fucking.
Well, he was the real deal, and he played the part of Luca Brasi in The Godfather, but he was.
Okay, I didn't know where you were going with that. I didn't know whether Lenny Montana would have been insulted that I accused him of killing the town of Greenville, South Carolina, or whatever. But yeah, he was. Well, I don't know if he was a high-ranking member of the fucking Gambito family.
He wasn't high-ranking. He was an enforcer.
Well, there you go. But
and it wasn't the Gambino family, but yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know to the extent of his netherworld connections, but he was in The Godfather, and he was also a wrestler. Yes. And looked like he could probably enforce his way through a few things. You know why he looked that good, Brian? I'm going to tell you why he looked that good. Because he ate his athletic greens.
Really? Because he died in 92.
Well, no, are you kidding? You don't know athletic greens has been around for 10 fucking years.
He died in 92.
Oh, that's longer than 10 years ago. Well, no wonder he died. He wasn't on his athletic greens. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't want to die like Lenny Montana, then you get on your athletic greens. Because, folks, when I tell you that I've been at home now, only going to the post office, one trip to the grocery store that we talked about, for 4 months, you would thought I would be fat as a cow by now. And the answer is no. I'm not, because I've been able to not eat junk food and fast food like I do on the road, but I'm still not eating as healthy as I should. And if you're not eating as healthy as you should, if you're at home closed up eating cheeseburgers and fish sticks, and I'm starting to get hungry. Anyway, if you're doing all that stuff at home, you want to make sure that your gut health is taken care of, that your immune support is taken care of, that your digestive enzymes are making sure that all the rotten stuff in your stomach stays to a minimum. All that and more, you got to be using the athletic greens. Brian, you love it because it doesn't make a mess. You, instead of juicing and putting the fruits and vegetables and I don't know, ceiling tile, whatever you used to juice, into your blender and spraying the walls with it and looking like just chaos, you can just mix this up, boom, and there you go. Shake it up a little bit and drink it right down. It's got the multivitamins, the vitamins and minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, so you get your vitamin C and your zinc citrate for your immune support, the probiotics for gut health, the stuff for recovery that I can't even pronounce. And it's diet friendly, whether you're eating keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. There's so many things there free. I don't even know what some of those are. Or if you're just like me and you like to eat like a pig, just shitty food, and you want to do something for your health. This is all in a drink with less than 1 gram of sugar, but it tastes great. You can mix it right up, and your wife won't yell at you because you won't make a mess. What did I leave out, Brian?
Gut health.
I mentioned gut health. I didn't leave that out. This is a daily drink. It's like nutritional insurance for your body that's delivered straight to your door. How can you beat that? You order some of these athletic greens. It's delivered to the door, and it's an insurance policy against your body breaking down.
It's delicious. I have it every single morning, and it's a great way to make sure you start your day with all the nutrients you would need throughout the day. And like I said before, I stopped taking a multivitamin since I've been drinking athletic greens, just because the multivitamins, they heat them up to get them into that pill form. It's a powder. You put it in the drink. They give you a special mixer so you can mix the water in it together, and it tastes good, and you get all
that way you get the right balance.
That's right.
There.
It's fantastic.
And I've noticed, have you noticed this? It's better for your poop.
I have not noticed that, no.
Have you noticed a poop difference?
I haven't.
I think I'm seeing a poop improvement. It's maybe just me, but you never can tell, folks.
There are no guarantees.
There's no guarantees in life, but you might notice a poop improvement. Folks, go to athleticgreens.com/JCE to claim our special offer, 20 free daily travel packs with your first purchase. That's a $79 added value. athleticgreens.com/JCE. Guess what? You're not going to travel anywhere? You can take them anywhere. You can still take them at home. You order the stuff, you take it, get the free daily travel packs, and give that to one of your loved ones, and they can take them right in their own home or your own home if you live in the same home. So if you want to just stay home or be in a home, You don't have to travel to use the travel packs.
I ended up using those before I used the actual general, I guess, powder, the general pack.
The general order of which you use the...
Well, because it's easy. Well, it's like the portion's already there. You just pour it into the water and mix it up, and it's right there. You know, the other one, they give you a big pouch of powder, and it's really cool. They give you like this little ceramic container to put it in, and then you leave that in your refrigerator, and then you have like a scooper where you scoop it out. So I use the travel packets first, and then I use the general powder, which is...
Well, you're a very penurious person, a very careful person, so you like to get the added value from everything.
Well, thank you. Yes. Meticulous.
All right. What are you doing on your programs this week, Brian, in this crumbling country of ours?
Another fun week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. This week on the Super Studcast, available for patrons of Ron Fuller Studcast at patreon.com/Studcast. Part 1 of a look at wrestling referees as the Tennessee Stud speaks with Bill Alfonso and Nick Patrick about their careers as referees and so much more. Obviously, they did much more in the wrestling business than just referee. Nick Patrick also wrestled briefly. Were you ever around him when he was actually an active wrestler?
No, I didn't get the chance because he started wrestling. Everybody knows he's Jody Hamilton, the assassin's son. And he started wrestling for his dad in his local promotion in Georgia. And it was I think that he went to Continental maybe, but it was very early in his career that he blew his knee real bad.
Mid-South.
Mid-South. And so that's why he transitioned into being a referee, because he had such a bad knee that, by the time that it was going to be better, he'd already become a pretty daggum good referee, and he just stuck with that. That's the way I remember it.
Next to Tommy Young and Brian Hildebrand, who's your favorite referee of all time?
Oh, God. Ronnie West, I loved Ronnie West because he not only took such unorthodox bumps that looked completely accidental and like that they would kill him, which most of them did because he'd do anything. And he was just such a pleasing personality, but he was small so that he made the guys look big, but he knew the business, so he knew when to be assertive and when to stay out of the way. And, he was always in motion, but not getting in the way. He'd even just stand there sometimes and wave his arms if shit was going, just so you knew something was going. It added to it. He was like doing the fills, right? I really liked Ronnie West. I hate to say it, but old David Manning wasn't a bad referee. He was just a glory hound.
Yeah. What about Scrappy McGowan? You ever work with him?
Yes. And his father, Charlie McGowan, did the ring when we first went to Atlanta. Was still doing the ring for the TBS studio. He did it for years, and he worked in the office there, and Scrappy was his son. I've got pictures of me and Scrappy from the summer of '83 when we were both like 20 years old or whatever. And, he did a good job. And also, some of the, a guy who a lot of people don't remember, and I never really got to work with him, but he was in all of the big-time Florida matches, was Stu Schwartz. He was a guy that they used to even fly around to some of the bigger NWA shows because he was kind of like a, real senior official. And so there was a lot of good referees back then because they got so much work. They got so much practice.
Well, we'll talk more about bad referees when we get to the AEW show, specifically referees that don't know how to count, but who was the worst referee you ever worked with, not counting an athletic commission referee?
Okay, well, that immediately
takes New York out of the equation. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hate to say it because he was such a wrestling legend and such a great human being, but just because of age and, Bronco Lubitsch in Dallas, he was not a good referee because he was so old by that point, and on the spot shows, he legitimately would count with his foot instead of having to get up and down, especially like a Midnight and Fantastics match. At first, I thought people were ribbing me when they say, Bronco counts with his foot a lot. What? But I mean, he was a legendary wrestler, that he was a top manager. He was just a great human being that everybody loved, and he was figured in the office. He was a wealthy man, saved his money. You couldn't say a bad thing about Bronco Lubitsch, but as far as being a referee, he was not a good one.
Where will you put Calhoun on the list?
Jerry Calhoun, definitely not a great worker. He was the stiffest fucking referee in history. Every time he touched me, I bled from some part of my body. No, Jerry was good. He did a good job. He really did. He was green when he started, but he did it for so much for so long that he did a good job, and most of the time was in the right place. And, he'd never went anywhere else in any other territory because he didn't even referee the entire Memphis territory. He never came to Louisville because he had a full-time job in Memphis. He just did the Memphis end and on weekends. So a lot of people have seen him because of the Memphis tapes, but in all honesty, he never refereed anywhere outside of every once in a while, maybe he rode with Lawler to Nashville. That was about as far as he got.
What'd you think of Frank Morrell as a referee?
Oh God, Daddy Frank was like a fucking Southern version of Bronco at one point. No, Frank could still get up and down, but God damn, he was stiff too. Because every referee in Tennessee had to at one point be put on the babyface side against a fucking heel manager or whatever. Tommy Marlin beat me. The only referee that ever hit me harder than Frank Morrell was Tommy Marlin. And they were both about 60 years old too at the same time and could beat half the fucking locker room up. No, I really liked Frank Morrell. We spent a lot of time together.
Well, hear more about referees on the Super Studcast, patreon.com/studcast. Check it out today. It's a fantastic show. Also want to make mention, Breaking Kayfabe with Baldrin and Barry, the latest episode up now. The boys review their favorite gangster films. I guess that ties into some Untouchable talk earlier today.
Late that night in the Southside Chicago apartment of Barry Rose.
Plus, of course, classic wrestling talk. They review a match between Chris Adams and Rollerball Rocco from 1979. And I don't know if I've said it on the air, Jeff Baldrin has now completed his final round of chemotherapy. And as of today, he is cancer-free. So congratulations to Jeff.
Hey, wait. Yeah. See, we got a huge budget here on the program, special effects and everything. Congratulations, Jeff.
Check that out today, baldrinpod.com. Want to make mention once again of Charting the Territories. You heard about it last week on the show. Episode 1 out now at chartingthepodcast.com. Of course, all Arcadian Vanguard shows available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is that you go. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership! It's been a while since we've heard your sonic yell.
I caught it in time and I blocked it out. It still works even with the new audio setup.
I don't know. You sounded like Tatanka there. I don't know what you were doing.
I said it like Sonny Kiss. Hurry, I can't wait.
The latest episode almost done, but go through the archives today, 605pod.com. Available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. The Mothership!
Oh, God damn it. I've thrown my pen at you in disgust.
What did you just do? What was that sound?
I threw my pen down on my pad in disgust at you, sir.
Oh, I didn't know if you threw it at the microphone or what you did.
No, I threw it right down. Here's my pad. Here's my pen. And I demand satisfaction from you.
You know, you constantly rip up your notes after you review these shows, and I really wish you wouldn't. There has to be so much we can do with this.
A lot of people wish I'd rip up this show, but I'm not going to give them the satisfaction.
What do you use? Do you use a legal pad? Do you use just a pad with white pieces of paper? Do you use... What do you use?
Wait, there's no such thing as a pad with just white pieces of paper. If it's a pad, it's lined. Yes, I use a white legal pad.
What do you mean? I have plenty of pads without lines on it. What are you talking about?
What do you get a pad without a line? That's copy paper. Where do you find a pad with a paper with no lines on it that you speak of, sir? In what world does this exist?
Go look at everything I mail you. You'll see a pad without lines on it.
Wild card, bitches! Straighten up now. Come on.
Answer the question. Boy. Answer the question. What
I did a minute ago. You were browbeating me for not knowing all of my fucking stationery supplies. I use a white legal pad for everything I do.
Huh? I saw you as more of a yellow legal size paper kind of guy.
A yellow legal size. No, I use a white regular 8.5 by 11 pad, not legal, the long one, because it's easier for copiers.
And you have lines.
And I have lines, yes, so that I don't fucking just go all over the place. It looked like a goddamn ransom note. Wild card, bitches.
Here's my stock. You can hear.
Yeah.
My plain white paper, no lines.
Well, you have little tiny perverted handwriting anyway.
It's not that tiny, and it certainly isn't perverted.
I don't know where you learned any writing like that. That's not official fucking United States school writing learning that I've ever seen. Anyway, speaking of people who need some more learning, there's a segue for you. Should we go to these programs? I've got to talk about these. I've got to vent about these programs. We were deluged by people. Thank God you started watching All Elite Wrestling again, especially because we can't watch it and enjoy it without you telling us what's the matter with it, because we can see these things, but we like hearing it, right? You have the platform. You can say what we're only able to think in our living rooms. And we did the numbers. We ran the numbers, the documentation on the thing. Well, first, they lost, out of the 1.5 million they started with, they lost about 700,000 on their own. And then when we swore off the program, a month ago or so, then they lost another 200,000. That was mostly our people who said, well, fuck, it's no fun anymore. And then they've been getting their ass kicked for the past few weeks. We will, I'm sure, somewhere during this discussion, get this week's information. But the point is, I can't legitimately critique both these programs as wrestling programs anymore. I need to critique NXT as a wrestling program, and I need to critique AEW as, I don't know, maybe it's a cross between a parody of pro wrestling and a local cable access charity telethon, where the local talent is invited to come and show their skills to raise money for the local fucking dachshund shelter. I don't, so we're not grading these programs evenly anymore. I can't do it. And as I said, I have to have fun, because that's what it's all about, right? It's supposed to be silly and fun, and their program certainly is. So we're today, after we finish talking about the wrestling program, NXT, then we're going to have some fun, and we're going to talk about the fun, silly program over on the other channel while it lasts. Does that sound fun to you, Brian?
No. Sounds like no fun.
Well, you better get a smile on your face, motherfucker, because we're going to have so much fucking fun, they're going to have to wipe the fucking smiles off our fucking faces with a sandblaster here today on the program. Get me?
Remember the Iggy Pop song, No Fun? That was going through my head the entire time watching.
Who did the album No Fun Allowed, ALOUD? Was that Glenn Frey?
I don't know. I'm not a big
I can't
Glenn
remember.
Frey solo fan.
Well, anyway, there's definitely no fun allowed in some cases here, but all right, NXT.
The heat is on.
The heat is on. NXT, can we start with this?
Please.
I hate to be redundant, and this may be redundancy repeated redundantly, but for the benefit of the new listeners who don't listen all the time, I don't want people out there thinking I don't say anything good about any of these programs. So I will repeat very briefly what I always say. NXT is a more professional television program with a bigger budget, obviously, and more people. There's more people involved in this. It's at a higher level as a television program. And also the talent in the ring. Even if they're not as experienced in some cases as a few of the guys on the other channel, there's no veterans on this program, but they're highly trained, and they're athletes, and they're serious. And you're not going to see anything embarrassing, or I shouldn't make blanket statements. You're most of the time, nothing is going to be embarrassing or just stupid on NXT. But, and every once in a while, you're going to see a great match. A lot of times the matches are between highly trained athletes, but they look very similar to each other because they all train in the same place. but nobody's making a joke out of this shit, at least on purpose. Maybe some of the creative they're told to inadvertently. So that's what you've got with NXT. And last week, the Keith Lee and Adam Cole's match was fantastic and got across exactly what they wanted to accomplish. And we've seen a lot of them. The high-level matches most of the time are on NXT. I don't agree that this week was one of them. But overall, have I summed up what our opinion has been generally the tone of and the look of the program?
Generally, yeah.
Nothing's going to go off the rails here. Nothing's going to venture into goddamn shitland and just be amateurish or just completely stupid and hokey. But also, it's more controlled and more sterile, if you will. Yes, they can have great matches, but you also can't ever get you can't get the impression from NXT that some nut's going to come out here and go into business for himself or do something really fucking outrageous. I think that would be fair to say also. It's kind of, they keep a pretty good level all the way through, but there's no embarrassing lows and there's very few memorable peaks. How about that?
I think generally, yeah, you're right.
Okay. So I just want to know, so we've got the flavor of this program, so later on when we talk about the local charity telethon, we'll know where we're going. But here's the thing again, opening the program, Keith Lee's celebratory interview. And I said he looks like the Hulk and talks like fucking Fraser Crane. Somebody else said, no, you should have said he looks like the Hulk and talks like Bruce Banner. But during this interview, my mind wandered. Keith Lee is so well-spoken and he has emotion and an expressive face. He's so nice and polite. He thanked everyone. I sound like a fucking baritone next to Keith Lee. He thanked everyone so sincerely. And the fans it's like a Ricky Morton promo from this big monster. And it was so nice. By the time that he called out his frenemy, and also he used the word frenemy, a grown adult man used the word frenemy. By the time he called out his frenemy, I'm like, goddamn, can somebody come out here and inject some life in this? What did you think of it to that point? I mean, am I just overreacting?
You know, I had a moment during this where I started to realize that the problem isn't just what they are writing for him to say. He has a very different delivery that is it's unique. I haven't seen too many guys. I mean, he is a big, you keep using the term monster. He's a big guy.
But when I say monster, I don't want people to think that they're not up on the wrestling terminology and every monster has to be Undertaker or Kane or whatever, but I'm a big guy, a football player, a tough guy, a giant 300-something pound guy monster. Go ahead.
But he has a very weird energy on the mic. And
that's a good way to say that.
And I've never seen him lose it. It's like one thing if Reese or Bowden's standing there with a microphone and saying, you're going to be in New Orleans this week, and you don't really have a blood feud going, you could say, oh, I can't wait to get there, and I'm going to do this and that. But every now and then you just want to hear, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm sick of you. Yes. I'm going to get you in the ring and kick your ass. There's never any of that with Keith Lee, and part of it is it feels like he's reciting lines. Now, obviously, what he said about Killer Tim Brooks came from him.
Yes.
But it
was still nice.
Yeah, he's a very nice big guy. I'm trying to think of too many other comparisons in wrestling history to that. He seems very nice.
Mighty Igor, maybe. But does he ever fucking lose it? But anyway,
did Ray Candy ever do a fired up promo when he was a young babyface? When he was a young babyface?
Yes, still, yeah. He had that voice like that, but he said, "I'm gonna get you." But Keith Lee In all respect to Ray Candy, Keith Lee blows away anything that Ray Candy ever thought about being able to do in the wrestling ring. But, I understand where you're going.
But that's the thing. Keith Lee is fantastic in the ring. I'm a really big fan of his, but I haven't liked the promos at all.
And that's when he called out Dijakovic, I'm like, okay, and then the first thing Dijakovic does is tell him how proud he is of him. And here is what I wrote in capital letters. Does anybody hate anybody anymore? That is what is wrong with both of these programs, and to a greater extent, every other program. I don't believe anybody hates anybody anymore. They're not legitimately mad at anybody. No prick wants to legitimately fuck somebody out of something. No good guy wants to legitimately get even for some way he's been fucked around. Nobody wants to take somebody's woman or their fucking money or break their leg on purpose to fucking mentally mind fuck them and teach them a lesson, or to get over as a fucking monster or a crippler or a goddamn badass or whatever the fuck. There is no legitimate fucking emotion except for all the guys telling each other how much they love each other and how much they love being able to perform together. And I wrote, Keith Lee was so verbose and flowery here, I began to hate him. And he challenged Dijakovic to a match based on how much their previous rivalry meant to him. I have such great memories of how you tested me with your competition that so the double champion demands his first match against a friend of his that he had a friendly, great competition with, instead of somebody coming out and saying, hey, I want what you got. And they wanted to do it tonight. And then after Dijakovic agreed to it, they both smiled at each other and fist bumped. They would have shaken hands and hugged, but Keith Lee was holding both the belts. And I wrote in capital letters, can somebody just break somebody's leg on purpose? This was the friendliest opening segment in the history of wrestling.
Well, I will say, though, I don't think this specific promo or the circumstances around it were the situation for someone to break another guy's leg.
No,
because obviously this is different. Now, with that said, the idea that Keith Lee has won both belts and he's going to defend them both for the first time against probably his most noted rival in NXT, I like the idea. It's just there was a very different way you could have gotten there, even without making it a blood feud for the night, even with playing up the mutual respect. There was a different way you could have gotten there that I think would have been more effective.
Remember the comedic exaggeration for effect part of the program. Yeah, no, they didn't have to break his fucking leg, but goddamn, it was the nicest opening segment, the friendliest challenge asked and answered. What conflict? Besides, now, they didn't even tease that one of them might turn and stab the other one in the back. So why do I want to see this now? It might have been a good match if they were mad at each other, but now they're friendly. I don't fucking know. Anyway.
And again, I'm not justifying this, but why you want to see it is because they've had classic matches in the past. And I'm not saying that's a good reason, but that's all it is. It's just, we've had great matches in the past. Let's do it again tonight.
Yeah.
You root for one guy or the other, but there's no point to caring too much about the match.
Yeah. Anyway, next up, and I was looking forward to this, and I was not disappointed. Damian Priest and Cameron Grimes. In the middle of all of this, a wrestling match broke out. Damian Priest has a great look and a great entrance. He looks badass. He's a grown adult man. Cameron Grimes comes out. He's got tons of personality. He's not the biggest fucking guy, but he's a gimmick heel. And he obviously knows and loves wrestling because he knows what he's doing. He's not some fucking stiff that they put through the fucking performance center because he was a professional volleyball player or whatever. I usually hate it when these matches start at 100 miles an hour, but this was a fight and it actually looked good. And they went back and forth, but it made sense. Their shit was well done. They abruptly went to break with no pitch. I hate that WWE style of just not telling people we're going to a break now. Stupid. But when they came back, Priest is making his comeback. His kicks and strikes look decent, but I think they're a little overdone. I think he's same thing as you see from and much worse from Dino Douche over on the other channel. He shoehorned some of those kicks in, maybe where he should do something a little more simple just to get the point across.
I did like, though, because so many people throw kicks now, I mean, everyone does it, that they at least said he has a karate background.
Well, yes, and his look better, and he's got those long legs, and he was actually landing most of them, which is, I think it was about 50% over on the other boys. It gave Cameron Grimes a razor's edge on the apron. That looked a little dangerous. I was confused for a second because Cameron Grimes suddenly started out wrestling the babyface, but then it was a goddamn great looking fucking move, but I couldn't figure out how they did it. And it was so slick. I'm sure that now a bunch of guys will start trying to do it and they won't be able to do it as well. So you'll be able to see through it. But that double cross body where they did the flip, how the fuck did they do that and not fuck each other up? You remember that?
Yeah, I can't give you an answer how they did it, but yeah.
But it was the old double cross body where they should go down, but they did a flip with it. And I don't see how you can time that. But anyway, that was a nice fucking move. But they did a nice, simple finish without fucking going on forever and ever and outstaying and overstaying their welcome. Grimes went for that big double foot stomp, but Priest moved and Grimes went through the ropes and hung in the ropes and Priest got him and fucking boom, hit his finish 1, 2, 3. It was a nice match. Both those guys are different and they do different shit. It didn't insult anybody. It wasn't a goddamn gymnastics meet. They were serious about it and they did a nice finish that everybody could understand. So I like that. That was probably, to me, it was the highlight of the show. I don't know what to tell you.
I thought it was really good. You know, this match, both these guys are very talented. I've been high on Cameron Grimes for a while. Damian Priest, I think you're right. I think he has a ton of potential. I dig him too. But this match was a great example of some of the bad names that wrestlers have in NXT. Just think, like, everyone on that roster. Damian Priest, Cameron Grimes, Karrion Kross, Killian Dane.
Yeah.
Dexter Loomis. Just everyone has and it's not as bad as it used to be, because they used to give guys just generic sounding names that were really bad and made up. Now it's like they try to at least make the names sound interesting, but they still sound like crap. But everyone has a stupid name other than Keith Lee.
Is that his name?
I think it must be. Yeah. I mean,
well, there you go.
It's the name he used on the Independents. So.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you there. But Damian Priest, though, this fucking guy. Now, why didn't they make Dexter Loomis out of Damian Priest? Because I could buy this fucking guy being a psychopath coming to get me. And he's got a grown adult man's voice. You know, I don't know. But Damian Priest, I don't mind too much because he looks like he came out of a fucking horror movie. But, you know, yeah, I see what you mean. Speaking of which, guess what the next match was? Shotzi Blackheart versus Indy Hartwell. Guess what I did, Brian?
I'm guessing this is where you picked up some time and fast-forwarded.
Picked up some time. I'm sorry, if they wanted me to watch Shotzi Blackheart, she shouldn't have been part of running over the fucking bad heel manager's leg with a fucking tank last week. But tell me what you thought about this. The Lucha Group VTR segment, where they're in the fucking expensive, wherever the fuck they were at. It looked like the set of Scarface, a mob meeting. And it's Escobar with his guys, and they're talking about being the true Lucha Libre artists. And yes, it was a movie, but it wasn't a movie with their opponents or enemies or frenemies or whatever working with them in it. It was a sit-down discussion. I thought it was a nice personality piece that kind of explains who these guys are, what their fucking mindset is, and made them look like somebody because they were all dressed up in an expensive place. This is what As a matter of fact, this is what I wrote. This is what the Lucha Brothers might be with a budget. But these guys are good looking. I've seen the Lucha Brothers without their masks at MLW. These guys are good looking movie star versions of Lucha Libre artists. But you know, it was a nice little personality piece that at least told me who these fucking guys are and what their problem is, which I don't get a lot of these days. I don't know, what'd you think, or did you skip it?
I watched it. I don't agree with you.
What?
I think I like the concept of them explaining their motives, but I'm against these theatrical little scenes where you don't know where the camera is or why it's there or why these guys would allow themselves to be filmed in this scenario. So I'm against it for that reason. I think there's a way to have them explain themselves to someone with a microphone or in the logical setting that professional wrestling should have, as opposed to let's go to this video that we've somehow acquired.
I thought we were going to quit trying to fucking grade them like wrestling shows. Well, I guess this is NXT. This is one we're still supposed to grade like a wrestling show. But you're right in concept. I'm grading on a curve here because I guess it's just accepted, and it goes even by me sometimes now that they're just sitting there exposing their secrets for no reason. But at least they do it with a budget. But then we get the double title match in the middle of the program. Keith Lee and Donovan Dijakovic. And I wrote that there had never been a worse build to a match, but both these guys are good. So let's see what the fuck's going to go on, right? Tell me what I missed in at least the first half of the match. They did some shit. They shook hands, and Keith Lee pulled him into a headlock. And I'm thinking, well, who's the heel going to be? And then later on, they shook hands again, and Dijakovic chopped him. And I'm like, okay, he gave it back to him. And then Dijakovic, Keith Lee chopped Dijakovic down, just hit him with a chop. And he takes a nice hard bump. And Keith Lee just turns around and walks to the far turnbuckle and starts climbing up like he's going to do a moonsault on this guy. Like one chop put this extreme rival that he's had down long enough that he can walk over to the far corner and climb up to the top rope and do a moonsault off. Is that what you saw?
I guess.
Because when he goes up to the buckle, Dijakovic goes over and picks him up in the over-the-shoulder Raka backbreaker to foil the moonsault, and then he basically let him down to his feet, and they smiled at each other, and they went to the break. This is the friendliest match I've ever seen. They came back from the break in a hold. Dijakovic had stopped Keith Lee, and they were laying their shit in when they would hit each other, and their moves looked good. It was so slow and so friendly. And then they started trading some bigger moves, and they did them all well, and it got more serious, but it didn't necessarily get more exciting. And then Dijakovic hit a big fucking kick that looked great, and Keith Lee was selling, but then Keith Lee hit a one-arm press slam that looked great, and then picked him up and did a DVD into a jackhammer, 1, 2, 3, which was a beautiful finish. As a matter, Keith Lee has several things that should always be a finish, and nobody should ever kick out of them. And with this fucking thing he just did, that should be a fucking King Kong Bundy 5 count. Because it looked fantastic. But and then after the match, they shook hands and hugged, and I believe kissed a cheek. Did that match ever get fucking going? And then they called it an instant classic later on. Did you ever get into this fucking thing? Or did they ever quit fucking smooching each other long enough for you to?
I thought it was all right, but it lost all the energy of the previous matches because of the promo that set it up at the beginning of the show. And then there was no dire need for Keith. I don't know. It didn't seem like it had the urgency of the previous matches. And like you said, I mean, after the match, they're celebrating, but it was almost like that feeling during the match? I mean, did anyone not think Keith Lee was going to win?
Well, I just hoped somebody'd get mad. But, and then help me explain this one to me, Lucy. As soon as they hug and kiss and shake hands and grab ass and everything, the lights go out. Scarlett is in the spotlight, and she comes to the ring and dumps some shit out of a bag. And the announcers say, or one of the one that sounds like Michael Cole, what's his name?
Is it Tom Phillips or Todd Phillips? I think it's Tom
Phillips.
Tom Phillips.
He said, well, a very non-cryptic message there. It was cryptic to me. What did she dump out of the fucking bag?
Well, she used to come out with one of those, it's a clock where you turn it and the sand goes to the other side.
An hourglass.
An hourglass. She used to come out with one of those.
Like sands in the hourglass. So are the days of our lives. You said you come out with a clock you turn.
Forgive me for not remembering the term off the top of my head. But anyway, she would come out with one of those, and, you know, that was her thing. And I guess that smashed up, so time's up.
Well, goddamn, wouldn't you show the goddamn hourglass with all the sand out of it and it's all in the bottom and you got, no more time's up instead of breaking it with a fucking hammer? Doesn't that restart the clock or pause the clock or something when you're on hourglass time?
I guess they couldn't figure out how to gimmick it. I don't know.
Gimmick it, just have an empty hourglass with all the sand in the bottom. What the fuck? Oh, God damn it. Anyway. So then they go to break and they come back and Dijakovic is in the back with another one of their female interviewers that never even gets a graphic, a lower third identifier, what her name is, doesn't get pitched to, doesn't get referred to. So whoever his fucking interchangeable blonde was, or Rip Rogers, Gary Royal, and Pez Watley, the convertible blondes. He starts then putting Keith Lee over further as how great he is. And then the bald guy from Key and Peele walked in and said something I couldn't understand. And then they got in a fight and fell through the door into a storage room next door. And the bald guy from Key and Peele, who was that, by the way?
That was Karrion Kross.
Okay, well, it looked like the bald guy from Key and Peele to me because nobody said his name either. And he ends up kicking a shit out of Dijakovic, but the female interviewer vanishes. You never hear her or see her again. The camera follows them, not even in the distance. Somebody get some help. Nobody's going to try to break this up. They're just fighting on camera in the back, actually not fighting because Dijakovic's down and fucking Karrion Kross Key fucking takes his shirt off and walks off.
I couldn't figure out what he said either. I couldn't figure out if it was English. I had no idea what he said.
I thought it was a Russian gimmick. Is he not Russian? Who is he? I mean, who is he? What nationality is he?
I don't know. See, I don't know too much about him. If he is, the little bit of NXT we've watched the last few weeks, they have not established that he's a foreign menace.
His country of origin has not been.
No.
I guess
we just know that him and Scarlett have a relationship with the lighting guy and the music guy. Because they hit their stuff whenever they have to come out and march to the ring. That's it. That's all we know about him.
But I'm not alone. You couldn't understand a word he said either.
I had no idea what he said. I was expecting something in English, and
well,
I couldn't figure out what he said. I couldn't figure out if it was another language or I just couldn't understand what he said.
You hit the wrong button on your remote control and you switched it to Czechoslovakian.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of another language, the next match was Timothy Thatcher against Denzel DeJournay. I swear to God, that sounds like a fucking celebrity chef, and he ought to have a line of fucking salad dressings. DeJournay. What the fuck? That is not anybody's real name. And I wrote this job guy's name doesn't even sound like any fucking body I've ever heard of. You give a job guy a name, an offshoot of some recognized star or something, so you might, but no. They wrestled for a minute, and that's what it was. This was not bad. Because it wasn't a match. It was an angle to get Thatcher's gimmick over. He's a fucking wrestler. And this guy was supposed to be an amateur wrestler. Thatcher out wrestled him, stretched him, and beat him with a single leg crab in a minute or two. And then got it back and was being a heel. And here comes Horny Lorny. What is his fucking Orny Lorcan or Oni Lorcan?
Lorca.
What the fuck with these names? Oni Lorcan. Yeah, here comes Lorcan and saved him. Do they think, boy, if Vince thought I was bad with the name test bit 25 years ago, he ought to have me there now. Vince, does it pass the name test? Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker. Bret the Hitman Hart versus Nature Boy Ric Flair. Mankind versus T.L. Hopper. Whatever the fuck. Anyway.
A couple things here quick. I looked it up. Karrion Kross is from New York.
Okay.
So I have no idea what he was trying to do with whatever he tried to say. Timothy Thatcher, who I've been impressed with since I've been watching him at NXT, and I have not seen him before then. I'd heard about him, but I never watched him before. This may be a weird question, but did he take the last name Thatcher as a tribute to Les?
I do not know.
Just because that's the only prominent Thatcher I could think of in wrestling.
Well, there was that Thatcher that lived in the Middle Ages and built many a fine hut roof. But otherwise, that may be, I'll take that one back and polish it, work on it a little while. But, I don't know. But Les would be proud because he stretched this kid in a minute. And like I said, this wasn't bad. It was an angle to get Thatcher's fucking gimmick over. And for that, it was fine. It's refreshing to see something like that on a wrestling program these days, all these 20-minute fucking matches. But then I was like, okay, we got half an hour left in the show at this point. And as a matter of fact, this is where I called you. Because I had forgotten exactly what time we said we were going to record. And I had watched the other program first because I wanted to have as open mind as possible. I didn't want to have to sit through 2 hours NXT and then watch that thing from scratch. So I wanted to have an open mind. So I was running low on time for what I thought the time was we were going to record. So I call you and I said, hey, Brian, can we do 30 minutes later? I'm just getting caught up. And you said yes. And I didn't tell you what I was doing, but what I was going to do was I was going to fast forward through the Tegan Knox and Io Shirai match. There was 30 minutes left in the program. I was going to fast forward and through that match and watch the main event. And as I kept fast forwarding, I wrote down this comment. What the fuck? This is the main event. 30 minutes? You got to be out of your fucking mind. So I stopped at the finish that they got in just in the nick of time. They started with 29 minutes left of the program and finished with a minute left on the air. And Io Shirai overshot the moonsault and pinned her anyway. Go back and watch that moonsault. She might have caught her fucking breath. She didn't land on anything else. Boom, 1, 2, 3. What'd I miss?
It was a good match. And then there was a little angle after the match.
Wait a minute.
Look, I think NXT knew they were going to lose this week in the ratings after the last few episodes.
Wait a minute, knew they were going to lose after the last 2 weeks of that fucking shit show on the other channel? This is where I'd have been fucking putting a pedal to the metal.
No, they should have. But it's just a show. I don't know how to explain it. Nothing matters, really. They're building up now Keith Lee versus Karrion Kross, and next week we got Dijakovic versus Karrion Kross.
30 minutes of Tegan Knox versus Io Shirai on national television in the 9:30 to 10 o'clock spot.
I can't justify that. I think I can't imagine doing that and thinking you're going to win the night.
Well, do we know yet? Because we do not know.
Do. Yes,
you know?
Do.
Well, I don't know. So let's save it.
Okay.
Save it. We'll see what happens. But this was a fucking gimme, a handoff to the other side if ever I've seen one.
Did you see the angle afterwards?
No, because there was 1 minute left on the air with the fucking moonsault finish. According to what I saw, what happened afterwards?
With like seconds to spare, Dakota Kai came out and attacked Io Shirai.
Oh, so I bet that got as much heat as fucking Ox Baker and Johnny Powers on Ernie Ladd.
Yeah, at least I think it was. Now I'm doubting myself. I think it was Io Shirai. Obviously, there's a history of her and Tegan Knox. I don't even remember.
No, Io Shirai was in the match.
Yeah, well, so was Tegan Knox.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember who. Dakota Kai attacked someone on the runway, and I don't even remember who. That says a lot about this program.
Yeah.
And it's too
All
dark.
right.
I'm sorry. NXT is too dark. I want a gritty wrestling in a way.
But I'd like to be able to see it, right?
It's just, it's so dark. It's like not appealing. You have to make the show appealing beyond the actual content.
And you don't mean dark like dark,
like Dexter Lumis
evil.
dark.
You mean dark like light this motherfucker up.
Yeah, just like have some life to the show. But you come into the show and you watch the show, and it's just so dark. There's no life to it. Tom Phillips, I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but I don't need to hear some bootleg Michael Cole on the show. You got Morrow and Beth Phoenix, and Beth I think is pretty good actually, but he brings nothing to the table as the third man there. I don't know why they're doing that.
Well, and how well is because they've got to have somebody there that's actually there, and I still can't imagine how they're doing. Morrow's in his house, Beth is in her house, but fucking Phillips is in the middle there in the building, and they're talking to each other. That has to be a nightmare. But anyway, NXT. But they can still say they had the best match of the night because there was only one good one, and Cameron Grimes and fucking Damian Priest had it for both shows. I will say I do not know all of the ratings information. As I just said, I want to hold on to that, but I did get the early bulletin, and yes, AEW did indeed win the demo of Polish lesbian nuns from 36 to 39. That was a demo they did win handily. I think there were 4 of them watching.
I believe they also got the demo of 25-year-olds who have never seen a vagina. That's another demo they've won this week.
We had Twitter. Everybody just keep this as fun as possible. Come up with demos that AEW wins on a weekly basis. That'll be some entertainment. I'll be glad to retweet all of them straight to Tony Khan. Poor Tony Schiavone's test didn't come back. But I got remember when I came out on TBS, Tony had introduced us. I said, "Hey, Tony, there's a phone call for you in the back. It's Rock Hudson. He's got some bad news."
I can't believe
you should have seen his look on his face.
Some of the shit you said on TBS, it's amazing.
Well, anyway.
That got on the air. The Challenger couldn't get on the air. But making fun of Rock Hudson having AIDS got on the air.
Well, why not? Everybody else was. On TBS, all the comedy shows. But anyway, Tony's test didn't come back, but Taz has more energy. Let's just face it. Tony's just kind of chuckling about the fucking weird shit he's seeing. He doesn't really know what to say about it because it doesn't relate to wrestling. Taz has seen more modern shit. He can get around it.
You know, I enjoyed Schiavone a lot with Jericho, although I got sick of Jericho here. He just yells the whole time. But I'll say this. Taz brings out the best in Jim Ross.
Yeah.
At least the best of modern Jim Ross. To the point where, in general, I'm not an Excalibur fan, but he wasn't even needed here. Taz and Jim Ross together were really, really good, I thought.
Well, and that's the team that if they were serious about this and were running a business instead of Make-A-Wish and not want to hurt anybody's feelings, they let Tony do the interviews and let JR and Taz be the announce team and send Excalibur back to wherever the fuck basement he lives to watch his fucking Japanese wrestling tapes. Because none of us will live long enough to see Excalibur become a good broadcaster or have an idea of a clue about the wrestling business.
But can you do that if Taz is managing Brian Cage?
Well, especially with what we see later on, yeah.
Well, that's
'Cause
true.
I don't think that'll last long. And besides, I did color a lot while I was managing the Midnight Express and TBS. You could work around that. But yeah, JR and Taz would be the team out of all of this. And Alex Marvez, my God, he just looks like a fucking Winnebago salesman trying to be on television.
He's horrible on TV.
Don't put him on television.
Well, look, Tony's allowed to hire his friends too. It's not just the Young Bucks friends and Cody's friends. He's allowed to hire his friends too.
Well, I'm not knocking Alex Marvez as a person, but he made it to his 50s before anybody ever told him he ought to be on television, and there was a reason for that. Anyway, so the first match on this fun fest, we had 2 weeks of Fighter Fest. Now we got Fight for the Fallen. As I said, they ought to get the F out. Cody defends the television title against Sonny Kiss. We finally get to see Sonny Kiss is in that group of people that was signed when AEW first started and has been relegated to audience on television, dark matches on YouTube, and various and other sundry low-profile places because they realized, along with the librarians and all this other horse shit, that they signed a bunch of fucking outlaw talent that has never been properly trained and is only good to look like a fucking local version of America's Got Talent. And this was an example of it. And once again, I don't care about Sonny Kiss's sexual orientation. I don't care who he's attracted to, who he dates, who he is involved with, who he marries, lives with. I don't give a fuck about that. But if he's going to act like a professional wrestler or call himself one, I'm going to point out the obvious inaccuracies in those statements. First of all, the entrance. What the fuck with the cheerleaders? Oh my God. He was a better dancer than the female cheerleaders, which I don't remember seeing Muhammad Ali dancing with the Rockettes before his third fight with Frazier. I don't see Dusty Rhodes doing a cha-cha with dancers from the Flamingo before his title match with Ric Flair. I don't see anybody in the UFC. Sometimes they have dancing girls, but they don't outdance them. How was this in any way supposed to make him intimidating as a professional fighter? What we had here was a goddamn dance routine on Dancing with the Stars, and there's a place for that. But not immediately followed up with this fucking clown in this goddamn clown outfit being competitive for 20 minutes with who's supposed to be in this company pretty much the top babyface. Also, Sonny Kiss, what is the matter with his back? His ass is 2 feet behind the rest of his body. He looks like he's doing a back bend when he's standing up straight. The fucking lipstick, the goddamn false eyelashes, and he's not even the heel. Adrian Street could get heat with false eyelashes. This guy is supposed to be the babyface. I know this because Cody, his opponent, immediately jumps him at the bell and beats the piss out of him and then does push-ups to taunt him and take him not seriously. So that means that Cody is the heel, and Cody's babyface manager is yelling at him for doing these things, and Sonny Kiss starts selling. What the fuck?
Yeah, by the way, I'm going to disagree with you on Cody being the top babyface in the company. Cody's a heel. It's been subtle, but Cody's a heel with a babyface manager. He's a heel with Arnold Skaaland. They've made Arn Anderson, one of the great heel talkers of all time, an ineffective babyface manager.
An ineffective babyface putz.
And you could tell they're teasing an eventual complete Cody turn, but go watch the last several weeks. Watch everything with Cody. Cody's a heel pretending to be a babyface for the time being, but Cody is a complete heel in my eyes.
All right, well then, at least then if he turns, then we'll know one or the other, because right now it's a fucking mystery, like everybody else in this company. Who's a heel and who's a babyface? They don't even know. And I don't care whether he's going to turn heel, or he's going to stay a babyface, or he's going to goddamn be a fucking tweener in betweener. Who's going to buy a chorus girl in a fight with a supposed professional wrestling champion? And that's what we're expected to being presented here. And you know what? As I said, I managed Adrian Street, who actually could wrestle. But I managed Adrian Street. If Sonny Kiss was the only gimmick in this fucking program, it would probably get over. And I don't know why it wouldn't get a ton of heat, except they wouldn't want it to get heat. But you're not going to get a ton of people wishing that the chorus girl becomes a fucking champion. However, because it's only one of a multitude of gimmicks and funny costumes and people you don't know whether to cheer or boo and what the fuck, it just looks goofy. Because it all together looks goofy. So this match goes on for fucking ever. Cody was acting like Sonny Kiss was no problem, as he should. He shouldn't act like he was a physical threat until he later on in the match made him one. But now, as I said, the supposedly babyface acting like an asshole. The manager is fucking blistering him for it. The prancing Exotico is the sympathetic underdog. And then suddenly, the 5'6", 188-pounder with scoliosis on his back starts kicking the shit out of Cody and then does some cheerleading handsprings. I'm not making it. As I said, folks, we're going to have fun with this show. I'm going to tell you what really happened, and you're going to laugh and tell me I'm lying. Sonny Kiss does some wonderful gymnastics, but his strikes and punches land with the force of a butterfly in a high wind. He does the pushing girl forearms instead of throwing punches. The Matrix shit. It was so out of whack with what Cody Rhodes, a top star in the company, ought to be doing or going along with. It looked like Cody was trying to work with Raka. So awkward. But now we know what Nadia Comaneci would look like if she had been a professional wrestler. Sonny Kiss. Sonny Kiss gave Cody his own fucking move, the Crossroads. We're still talking about an underneath fucking wrestler. Every week, underneath talent with no potential to make it as top names in this industry, in this company, or it's definitely in the WWE, regularly pushes the guys that you could buy on this program as top main event stars to their very fucking limit and then some. On the theory that these fucking stars are allegedly, I guess, so fucking egotistical that they think that they're so over that they can elevate this Drek talent by being competitive with them, and all it does is sink the star. I wrote, why is this so competitive? Does Cody really think he can make a star out of this? He gave Sonny Kiss an Alabama slam on the ramp and got a 2 count. Sonny Kiss got his foot on the ropes. And Arn is pissed at fucking Cody. It's still in this match.
And they're teasing Tully in the crowd, interested in Cody.
Yes. But the whole thing is he can't beat Sonny. And then he rolled him in after the fucking deal and got a 2 count and got the foot on the ropes. Then he gave Sonny and by the way, this is not Sonny like Sonny Tammy Sitch. It's Sonny like Sonny Bono, right? Sonny. Sonny Kiss, the fucking head first deal. What do they call it? Where he dropped him head first? And it looked like he dropped him head first over his back, whatever the fuck. He got a 2 count and a kick out of that. What are we are proving here that Cody Rhodes cannot beat a cheerleader. Then he hits the top rope superplex. And what Cody wanted was for Sonny Kiss to turn a shoulder in the nick of time. But since Sonny Kiss has never been put in this position to have a main event match against anybody who knows what he's doing, what he got was a weak slow motion lift my arm instead of the dramatic, because the fucking green fuck doesn't know what he's doing in this position. Then, while Cody's arguing with the referee, he actually had to stand there and go back and watch the tape, folks. He's arguing with the referee, and Sonny Kiss is trying to fucking kind of scooch over to do something, but Cody stands there and finally has to look behind him and say, "Schoolboy me, idiot." He looks behind him, looks right at the guy laying there, and then suddenly gets schoolboyed by surprise. And then Cody Rhodes gets a crossface and can't make the cheerleader submit. And now he is straight out heeling on Sonny Kiss. And Sonny Kiss is selling. Am I lying so far about anything in this match?
No.
So then, Sonny Kiss is selling. Cody rips the turnbuckle pad off. And he's going to fucking ram Sonny Kiss into the, like, he has to resort to this now to beat a preliminary fucking underneath wrestler. I would say heel or babyface, but nobody knows which. But Sonny Kiss reverses Cody into the bare buckle, and it looked like shit. It was awkward because they tried to do some fancy shit and just a little fucking reversal. They tried to do some goddamn flippy fancy shit, and Cody missed it with his head. So it looked like shit. Now Sonny Kiss is fresh as a daisy after all this, throwing his girl wrestler forearms and shrieking at the top of his lungs. Hee, hee. Only it didn't have the same effect of scaring people shitless as it did when Terry Funk did it while he was spurting blood everywhere. And then out of nowhere, Cody hits the crossroads. 1, 2, 3. Boom. And guess what they did then, Brian?
They embraced.
They shook hands and hugged each other. God damn it. Fucking shit. They hugged each other. I'm trying to have fun with this, but this is so ridiculous. I'm not lying. Another match on another program where they beat the piss out of each other, mostly in a phony way and something that nobody can believe, but they do it. And then they hug and kiss each other.
I think one of the big problems with AEW, and I don't think it's good for the long term for the company, and I don't think it's necessarily good for the program without seeing the ratings breakdown of the segments. But the idea that everyone has to elevate everyone else so that every match is 50-50. Not necessarily 50-50 booking. I mean, there was no doubt Cody was going to go over. But Cody has to have a long competitive match with everyone he wrestles. And I believe they're trying to get that person over and show that they could exist in a competitive match, but I think it does the exact opposite. It's counterproductive.
Exactly, because you have, first of all, the reason why people get over by having a competitive long match with an established star is because it usually doesn't happen. On television, against a lesser opponent, the star usually looks dominant, or used to, and is supposed to, because then after you establish in people's minds that that's the norm, then when the guy comes along that nobody really gives a chance to, and he takes the guy to the limit, that's what makes the underneath guy, even when he loses, because he's done something most people don't do. Cody Rhodes has been taken to the limit, so by everybody, every top guy here has been taken to the limit by every outlaw schmuck that just learned how to lace his boots last week. So as we will see later on, when we get to the real cartoon segment, well, you talk about the cheetah segment, that's coming. But that's the problem. And also the problem is some of these people think they're over, and they're not. Cody has the ability to get over with a wider variety of people, but the rest of it, the Road Warrior and his brother Balding Buck, Twinkle Toes McFingerbang, they're over to such a small audience to begin with, the 500,000 to 700,000 people that'll put up with this shit every week, and even not all of them, they can't elevate anybody. They need to be gotten over. They made their cardinal mistake on this program when they started it out and assumed that the Young Bucks and Twinkle Toes were over, and have worked like that since, and that's why they're not over. because nobody on a mainstream television basis knew who the fuck these clowns were, and they've given them no reason to want to find out. Anyway.
I will say Sonny Kiss is seemingly an extremely talented dancer. You said it earlier. He was doing better with the moves than the cheerleaders. But with that said, I'm not exactly sure what the audience is for that. Who is going to, if there were fans there, are they going to sit there and cheer Sonny Kiss doing a dance routine?
Don't you see all the young and former cheerleaders in the audience for wrestling these days that will look up to Sonny Kiss, or all the gymnasts that will look up to Sonny Kiss? No wrestlers will look up to Sonny Kiss because he's a fucking joke and an abomination as a fucking professional wrestler. Maybe with 5 years decent training somewhere from somebody that knew what the fuck they were doing, because he is a good athlete, but he's a rotten fucking wrestler. So the wrestling fans are going to have a very short attention span for that. And the people that are going to cheer for him are the people who want to be seen as cheering for a member of the LGBTQ community living his dream, whether he's out of place or not. And he's out of place in his fucking program. Well, not out of place in this program. Out of place in wrestling, but not this program.
But a very, very talented dancer. I was watching. I was like, wow.
And a wonderful cheerleader.
He's better than a
gymnast.
He was better than the cheerleaders.
Yeah,
he was better than the cheerleaders at doing those dance moves.
If he got that sway back fixed, maybe he could go far.
I don't know what you're talking about. Now I have to go back.
You go back and look. When he's standing there, his ass is 2 feet behind him. The rest of him. His
back just have a big ass.
Well, and tell me that back is not curved.
I don't know. Now I have to go back.
Well, you need to. All right, the next match. This was the one I was waiting for, because I thought this will be the ultimate test.
Wait, one last thing, by the way. No promo from Cody. We haven't heard from Cody in a while, since that press conference several weeks ago. People who like Cody will tell you he's one of the best promos in the business. I'm not as high on Cody as other people, but when Cody is on, Cody is a great promo. Haven't heard a peep from him in weeks. He just teased being a heel.
By the way, MJF was in the fucking audience.
Well, we can't get MJF 2 weeks in a row. That's asking too much.
A fucking minute promo from the best talker in the company.
I agree.
Or a minute promo from, like you said, from Cody, a top star in the company, instead of these fucking endless goddamn gymnastics meets. Nobody talks. Except, well, if you're over 50, you get to talk. The announcers and the managers get to talk sometimes. But anyway, you know what I'm about to say. The match I was waiting for. Can they do it? Can FTR, the best tag team in professional wrestling today, have at least an acceptable American-style wrestling match with the Lucha Brothers that makes any sense? How would you have answered that question, Brian?
Well, I hate to put that on FTR's shoulders.
Oh, it's not on their shoulders.
Because they did as much as you could do, as well as you could do it, to try. I don't want to sound like Jim Ross or an old man now and say, slow it down. But geez, it really, I thought, exposed the Lucha Brothers as not being as good as their biggest fans think they are.
Well, here's the problem. And it wasn't FTR's fault.
And
it's
sloppy.
Not on their shoulders.
And very sloppy,
Well, they've always been. I saw them live in MLW. And that's the thing. They don't mind if they're sloppy in Lucha, because the Lucha audience in Mexico is used to what that is. But it doesn't look right to American eyes. I'm sorry. That's just a fucking statement. Lucha is a huge cultural phenomenon in its country. Does not look right to American eyes. Sort of like the fucking Chinese bat eating. Whatever the fuck. But FTR could have had a good match with the Lucha Brothers, I believe, except that they were not allowed to, because they were not either given a producer or an agent or whatever they call them over there that set the Lucha Brothers down and said, look, these guys are important to us. We need to get them over, and you're going to work their match. And they're going to call it. Instead, FTR, trying to get along, trying to be professional, I can read their minds exactly what happened. They sat down with the Lucha Brothers and they did some of their stuff because the Lucha Brothers did some of their stuff. And and FTR was not given the authority or put in a position where they could tell the Lucha Brothers what to do. Therefore, it wasn't their fault. It's the fault of the fucking ridiculously inept bookers, the inexperienced amateur hour bookers that put this shit together. Do you want to have a FTR to have a great match, your new team that's come in that you've already botched the booking on anyway, and you don't need to give them any more fucking botches? So let them do what they do well, and if you can't have the Lucha Brothers follow them and do what they're told, then don't book the match. Or you go in there and you tell the Lucha Brothers, here's what we're going to fucking do. Because let's face it, the Lucha Brothers are as over as they're ever going to be in AEW because they do the same shit every time. They have the same match every time. And you can't tell them apart. I mean, the matches. I can't tell the Lucha Brothers apart. But you definitely can't tell their matches apart. FTR is much more important. FTR has a much bigger upside. And this should have been put together right or not put together at all. So it's not the talent's fault. But it's just, it was fucking ass backwards from the start. But I'm trying to have fun with it. So we're going to talk about how funny and silly it was to put a stupid match like this together. FTR should be the heels. One would think the Lucha Brothers should be the baby faces because they're popular. But they come out in a stolen truck with the truck thieves, the fishmonger and the meat gentleman.
The Vic Tayback Express.
The Vic Tayback Express. God damn it. So the Lucha Brothers, the popular Lucha team, come out with the mid-card heel team, the Fishmonger and the Meat Gentleman, a.k.a. the Vic Tayback Express, and the stolen truck that they stole from FTR after FTR had been in the company for 3 weeks. JR asked why the cops didn't know where the truck was if everybody else did. He has got to be so embarrassed. He's got to be so fucking embarrassed that it's come to this. And JR loves announcing, and he loves the wrestling business, and he loves to work. And unfortunately, that has led him to be a part of this. And for all the right, honest, hardworking reasons, but it's fucking embarrassing. And you can tell. I wanted to try to watch this as a match. I wrote, I'm going to watch this as a match. I'm not going to sit and pick apart every little thing. I'm going to see where they go. And then immediately Lucha Brother number 1 jumps. I'm just going to say number 1 and number 2 because I don't know which. Jumps Dax. No lockup. Was there a lockup to start a wrestling match on any of these matches on either show? I can't remember seeing one.
I think there was. I just don't remember which.
Probably the girls. Maybe. The girls probably locked up.
You know what? Yeah.
Anyway.
Tegan Knox and Io Shirai did lock up.
Well, there you go. Yeah. They locked up. But immediately Lucha Brother number 1 jumped Dax and started, and go back and watch this match now, folks. Now, that like you're doing anyway, because for our audience, that's the only reason you're watching this show. You save it to hear me first. Automatically, Dax tries to sell the first blow, and fucking Lucha Brother number 1 gives him another 6 before he can sell anything, and finally just knocked him down to the ground in a clumsy way because he wouldn't just stop hitting him. Then they tried to do their stupid glove shit, but thank God Dax foiled that, stepped on his hand, and got the glove away from him. But then the heels started shining like faces. The heels being the Lucha Brothers, they started shining like the faces. Then did you see the Lucha Brothers fuck up that double team forever?
Yeah, like I said, sloppy. They can't do their own move.
They can't do their own moves with each other. And there's poor Dax laying there waiting for somebody to land on him and not even sure probably which one it was going to be. And the Lucha Brothers are trying to do one of those fireman's carry swing between the legs fucking, Western swing dancing fucking square dance moves they do that ends up with somebody landing on somebody, and they got stuck and couldn't turn each other over. Fuck. Then the Lucha Brother comes off the ropes and leaps into Dax. Remember when finally FTR takes back over? And fucking Dax shot the guy off so they could catch him in a sidewalk slam and they could do a double team. The Lucha Brother ran to the ropes weird. He started running the ropes. Then it was like, wait a minute, I forgot what I'm supposed to be coming off for. He almost stopped. Then he started hitting it. Maybe that's just the way he hits the ropes. Then he comes off like a rocket, and instead of getting into the grip and then swinging his legs up, he leaps into the sidewalk slam and causes Dax to almost fucking lose him on their double team. And so finally, FTR slowed it all the way down to fix it before it went completely off fucking ramp. And they started getting heat on a Lucha Brother, but that didn't last long before the Lucha Brothers were doing shit again, and we went to a break. And we come back, Cash is selling. Now the Lucha Brothers are heels and Cash is the baby face. But Cash makes an ice-cold tag to Dax because neither Lucha Brother tried to stop him because they have no idea how to have a fucking tag team match in the United States of America. So they just left Cash to fucking lay there and roll over and tag Dax because they see it on WWF TV, I guess. Then Dax makes a comeback. The best in-ring heel worker in the company is making a babyface comeback and doing it very well. And everybody got put in the right place and everything was safe. And then suddenly the Lucha Brothers just took back over and did a bunch of shit to Cash. And Dax had to wait till they were finished. And then FTR hit a great kind of Steiner Brothers tribute double team bulldog, a big lift and a bulldog off the top rope. And everything came to a fucking halt. I guess to get the Lucha Brothers ready for whatever the fuck this thing was next. But they did this, instead of the superplex splash spot, they did the superplex and then the splash, but the Lucha Brother raised a knee, and then the Lucha Brother came off with a splash, but the FTR guy raised a knee, which was good. It was a good spot. But then all of it came to a halt again, which happens, as I was reminded at MLW watching these things live, and that every time I see on television, especially when the complicated shit gets started, all these lucha fucking matches end up in a spot somewhere with everybody staring at each other for a minute because they can't keep track of themselves of what the fuck's going on. Then they went into a sloppy looking double hockey fight because the Lucha Brothers can't punch. And then, I'm not lying yet, am I?
No.
Okay. Then Cash and Lucha Brother number one were on the apron of the ring forever. While nobody got counted out, while the announcers talked about why nobody was getting counted out, it didn't make any sense. Then, go ahead.
Can I jump in right now?
Please.
Because you talking about the counting out got me thinking. This was the episode where I really got pissed off at wrestling and at AEW. And I tweeted out about AEW for the first time in a while. And it was this match that started it. Whoever that idiot referee is.
The bald one that looks like a fucking corpse.
It wasn't the bald one. It was some other guy.
Was it Paul Turner?
You know, I don't even know. Other than Aubrey, I don't know what any of their names are.
Well, I worked with Paul in Ring of Honor, and he's a good guy. I don't think this was him. I'm not sure, but God, no.
This guy would watch all four guys in the ring with both hands up in the air like he forgot how to count. And it happened multiple times. Go back and watch him. Watch him when you would think the referee would be going 1, 2,
but here's the thing.
3, 4.
What happens when he gets to 72, though? He's trying not to bury himself because he knows they're not listening and they're not paying any attention. It's just going to make him look stupid.
If it takes you 45 seconds to count to 5 and you're visible on camera, looking confused time after time after time, there's a problem. And I get it. I get the Lucha Brothers have to work this style of sloppy wrestling where there are no rules. The Young Bucks have shown they actually could wrestle a match with normal tag team rules. They choose not to usually, but they can do it. The Lucha Brothers have never shown any ability to wrestle a tag team match with a referee counting. Why have a referee if this is what's going to happen? Go back and watch. You always say go back and watch. Go back and watch this referee's performance during this match. Go watch. I tweeted out. It looks like he just learned how to count and he hasn't figured out how to do it yet. 1. And then he would like move his hands like he was trying to concentrate with his hands. Eventually, 2. It was ridiculous. What a horrible performance by that referee. Horrible. And I don't even know if it's his fault because you can't do too much because the Lucha Brothers are doing their own style. I don't even want to blame Lucha here. I like Lucha when done right. I like good Lucha. I was a big fan of Lucha when AAA was first brought to America by Ron Skoller, my good friend.
Well, and actually, when guys like that, like Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr and etc., could do it properly, the United States does not have a monopoly on the current wrestling generation not knowing how to fucking work. Same thing in Mexico because they've decided they can just do whatever the fuck they want. Even Lucha had some rules, used to, not anymore. And this match is still going on, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They were on the apron forever, Cash and a Lucha Brother, with, because that was their spot to do, to satisfy the Lucha Brother. And nobody got counted out. Then they did a bunch of dangerous dives. Then Dax and Lucha Brother number 1 went into some shit, and Dax pulled his fucking mask off and small packaged him. And I liked that. That was a nice little way to beat them without just beating the fuck out of them and pissing in their mouth.
That was a great finish. That was finally, for the finish, they turned into heels again.
Yes. And amazingly enough, and also that is obviously more important to a luchador. When his mask gets pulled off, he immediately turtled up and covered up and got small packaged, and that gives them the out because it's more important to protect the identity in Lucha Libre than it is to win the match, et cetera, et cetera. So that was if they'd only had a good match in front of it. But it wasn't over. Explain to me if you can. They couldn't even do that. If you said, I'm going to sabotage a fucking motherfucker, I'm going to make him meaningless as soon as I can after he enters the company. If you challenge somebody to do that, they couldn't have booked FTR any worse. They come in, everybody wants to see what's going to happen with them and the Bucks, so they minimize that immediately by teaming them up. They have their vehicle stolen by a fucking underneath heel team that looks like goddamn the Vic Tayback Express. They're fucking disrespected all the way around. Then the heels that have stolen their truck, the fishmonger and the meat gentleman, the Bucks sneak up behind them, super kick them, and steal the truck keys back. Twinkle Toes McFingerbang comes out with a goddamn cooler of beer. And the Bucks hand FTR their property back, and Olivier hands them some beer like they're going to make up and all is forgiven. And I swear to God, FTR pours the beers over Olivier's head, which is probably the closest he's ever been to drinking one, the manly man that he is. But then the Young Bucks hold Kenny Olivier back from why I oughta, like they used to hold me back at the Midnight Express when I'd want to fight the babyface. Not really.
Yeah, really.
And it looks like a bunch of fucking idiots in high school. And once, I guarantee you, Bruce Pritchard is taking this tape over to Vince McMahon's house on Wednesday, if they still do that deal. And he's showing him all this stuff so Vince will fucking laugh and fucking continue to laugh. And then FTR walks out in fucking disgust, having poured beer over Olivier's head, and boy, was he suitably chastened. And they get in their truck that they didn't even get back, that was gotten back by the Bucks and handed to them, and it won't start. It will not fucking start. And it's obvious. They're making the faces that it won't. You couldn't even tell if the announcers had just said, well, they've started it up and they're going to get out of here. But it was obvious it wouldn't start. To quote Don Knotts in The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, the horribleness and the awfulness of it will never be forgotten. In this local fucking cable access talent show charity telethon, they couldn't even get their truck started.
You know, after the angle where they poured the beer on Omega's head, it was a lot of beer. All I'm thinking is, it's going to really suck to work in that ring after that much liquid gets on the mat. Little did I know what was coming next.
All right. Chris Jericho gets in the ring with Sammy Hagar and Jake Hager.
He wishes it was.
Yeah, he was Santana and Ortiz. I don't which one. Hager wishes he was Sammy Hagar,
No,
or Jericho
Jericho
wishes he was in the ring with Sammy Hagar.
Jericho
Either one.
wishes he was in the ring with Sammy Hagar. Absolutely.
I wrote they need Guevara back bad. That slappable face of his. He was a lot of the life in this thing. And here's where we gotta. Chris Jericho, I know he's almost 50. And I've liked Chris. And I'm just so disappointed in what Chris has done to himself and become. I know he's almost 50. He can't work a full schedule, but he can still go seriously with talent once in a while. So he didn't want to stay with Vince and work an occasional match with top stars. He wanted to take more money to come over here and destroy his fucking reputation and legacy. Is it the money the thing, or is it he's obviously done with wrestling. Does he want to be the host of America's Got Talent? Does he want somebody to cast him in a sketch comedy show? He doesn't care about his reputation or what he's done in the wrestling business now. He's fully embraced this. For what fucking purpose? What can his motivation be? At first, I could see where, before we saw what has happened, I could see where he wants to be the guy to make a difference and elevate young guys into stardom and be the flagship guy on a brand new wrestling program. But now that we're seeing what he's doing, he hasn't elevated them. They have plunged him down to their level. He is submerged past the outlaw guys in terms of silliness and hokiness and eye winking at people. So did he first have the thought, I'll be a guy that makes a difference. I'll be the flagship guy on the show. I'll elevate people. And then see that was not going to happen and just decide to go for the job as the host of a sketch comedy show? Or what is he fucking thinking?
The last few months have really, because he was great. The first few months, the Cody feud, and then into the Moxley stuff. There were some moments that were, I hate to say it now, but typical Chris Jericho. Bad comedy, stupid skits that you would see on WWE TV, like the party with his dad there and various other things.
But it wasn't every week, and it wasn't in the matches.
That's the thing. And then the next week it would be something really great with him. However, this year, in the last several months, he's had a feud with Matt Hardy and Matt Hardy's drone. And he went from that into a feud with Orange Cassidy. And I think Chris Jericho has been blessed with bad sensibilities for a long time. And he always wants to latch on to whatever he thinks the hot thing in the business is. And you could say he wants to elevate it. I actually think a lot of the times it's the opposite. He wants to just get the attention from it. Remember, I killed him when he had that match with AJ Styles at WrestleMania years ago. AJ had just come in. He was the hottest thing in the WWE. And then he lost to Chris Jericho, who looked shot at WrestleMania. He sees the reaction Orange Cassidy gets. Despite whatever you think and whatever I think and whatever all the other soulless fans think, Orange Cassidy with their fan base is popular. Orange Cassidy sells a lot of merchandise to their fan base.
But see, I'm not buying that because Chris Jericho is smart enough to know that just their fan base of people who like the gaga and the joke is not going to be what they need over the long run. He was there specifically to get real wrestling fans, longtime wrestling fans. He has a name from a real wrestling program. That was supposed to be his job.
That should have been his job.
Instead of cuddling up to the joke guy that the only people that like him are the people that are already watching to begin with.
Look, eventually, Tony Bennett got to a point where no one was going to pay attention to his new material. So he had to do his duet stuff with any contemporary artist he could find that he could latch onto.
All of whom were happy to work with him because they respected his tenure and talent.
And that's Chris Jericho right now in AEW. He sees that Orange Cassidy is happening with that fan base. He wants to be a part of it. Trust me, if Sonny Kiss, somehow, if that Sonny Kiss segment does an amazing rating, and they bring him back next week, and it does an amazing rating, and he sells a bunch of merch in the next few weeks, he'll be working with Chris Jericho in a month. I guarantee it.
Damn it. Oh, fuck. All right. Well, anyway, in this interview with Jericho and his men, he actually cut a promo talking about winning the fucking demographic last week. Without saying NXT's name, he talked about him and Old Pockets there, which, by the way, I thought they were did their match itself, was that the high point of the rating or the demographic or whatever?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, whatever the fuck.
I'm fairly certain it wasn't the high point of the rating. It may have won the demo versus NXT.
Yeah, the point is we have to get this minute with it. NXT had more people watching, so he's out there bragging about winning the demographic like Tony Khan was bragging about winning the demographic, which is a nice way of saying we've shot 900,000 fucking people that were watching this goddamn program at the start of it, and NXT has now started kicking our ass, but we still won a demographic of such and such people between the age of such and such living in a town with an R in it. It was fucking embarrassing. And said no rematch for Pockets. And then Pockets came out to interrupt, but he didn't interrupt because he can't speak because he's fucking mute. And then this went forever with Jericho telling Pockets off. And finally, Pockets gave a thumbs down, and orange juice fell from the ceiling onto the heels. And while Jericho pitched a fit about his jacket, I used to call Ortiz of LAX Pampiro Firpo Jr. because I like keeping Pampiro Firpo's name out there, but he's an embarrassment to Pampiro Firpo. And I don't think I can call him that anymore because it was okay. A heel can take a bump in the liquid, right? And then he purposely couldn't stand up for a full minute, taking bumps and rolling around and dog paddling in it to make sure everybody knew that it was fucking gaga.
It was stupid.
Stupid. This guy needs to be beat with a fucking stick. And I'm sorry, when people are saying, well, Santana and Ortiz, they're a top quality. In what fucking universe, in what wrestling school is this goddamn clown and his partner a fucking great team when all he does is fucking make everything goofy? And Santana did one interview that one time. I said, this guy could be a fucking star, and they've buried him ever since. I've never heard him speak again.
Yeah, I think he's all right. I think Santana isn't the problem. And by the way, major respect for representing Hector Lavoe on your shirt there. But Ortiz, he isn't good in the ring. He's over.
I'd rather represent Marie Laveau.
Well, he isn't. He's overly goofy in his best of moments. I mean, remember a lot of those early promos where he kept sticking his tongue out?
Yeah.
And he's ridiculous. And then this, like you said, someone, even if that whole group, all four of them took a bump in that liquid one time, that works. But the idea they're all standing there and he's flopping around like a baby deer.
Well, and he was
stand up.
He was trying to get his partner he was reaching for his partner, trying to get his partner to grab him so he could pull him down. And Santana's like, get the fuck away from me. You know, just
so
fucking stupidity.
And let me say this, Orange Cassidy, he's probably the smartest guy in the entire business.
You know, you have to actually say that.
I do.
And I agree. And now that he is, for a generic, bland-looking, pale white guy wearing T-shirt, blue jeans, and sneakers with no discernible talent, can't cut a promo. His whole gimmick is that he does nothing, and he's somehow suckered these people into giving him a job and paying him. He's smarter than Kevin Nash.
You know, I think it may have been Lou Reed, and I may be wrong, but if it wasn't Lou Reed, it was one of the other Warhol people who said, you know, everyone thought we were so cool because we sat in the back of the room with our sunglasses on. They didn't realize they always think the people are cool who do nothing, who just sit there and do nothing. They have nothing going on. They seem the coolest because they have nothing going on. But in actuality, they want something to be going on. Orange Cassidy, smartest guy in the business. And I was worried about people working in that ring after the beer. Obviously,
now the orange juice.
Obviously, they taped this on another night or something.
They could have fucking rolled the goddamn canvas off during a commercial break.
That was a lot. That was a lot of liquid. And by the way, major props to Orange Cassidy for being in cahoots with whoever's running the Whoever
the
dropped
special
orange juice.
effects. Yeah.
Who is that guy? Why doesn't Jericho go beat up that guy?
I don't know. Well, I'm sure, and by the way, when did they give Shitstain a job? Because they actually just stole a fucking Russo angle from 20 years ago. Except instead of blood from the Brood, it's orange juice from fucking My Little Dog Pockets.
Now, let me ask you something, because I've made this complaint many times that this is WWE. This is their version of WWE. I will make that again. Do you think it's a fair statement? This is a bunch of guys who want to do their own version of WWE doing it here. This isn't... Someone on Twitter said this, and it was brilliant. They said, I wanted an alternative to WWE, not alternative WWE. And that's what this is.
This is an alternative WWE. This is low-budget, outlaw, indie, mud show bullshit from guys who have been somehow convinced that they can take over the wrestling world from the WWE. And this is what they do. And there's a few smart guys in the middle that are milking a billionaire for a lot of money for a job that they have to do very little at.
And to your earlier question about Jericho, another reason why he's happy to be here is he doesn't have Vince McMahon saying, no, we're not going to do any of your stupid ideas, Chris. I like you. I want to push you.
If these were any of the ideas, I can see where that was happening.
Did you notice any of this stuff with Chris Jericho and Sebastian Bach of Skid Row?
I did not.
Well, apparently there's a little bit of a feud that's broken out between Chris Jericho and Sebastian Bach of Skid Row.
Are they going to bring him in for a match now?
I don't think this is a work, because he hit Jericho where it really hurts. I have a article here from blabbermouth.net, whatever that is.
Yeah, please tell us what blabbermouth.net had to say.
Sebastian Bach has engaged in a Twitter feud with Chris Jericho over allegations that the Fozzy frontman uses pre-recorded vocal tracks during live performances. For those of you who are unaware, famously a Milli Vanilli kind of move. But now let's go back to the article here. The exchange began on Wednesday, July 15th, when one fan commented on social media that Jericho is starting to look like the Skid Row singer, with Sebastian Bach weighing in, every single day for the past 2 or 3 years, somebody tells me this. After another person told Sebastian, you partied too much, Jericho has you beat, Bach came back with, he definitely does, considering that he mimes to a tape. A third fan told Sebastian, you know Chris tours with his band, right? I've seen him live a couple of times. He's not lip-syncing. To which Bach replied, cool, let's see a clip of that, because every single clip I have seen is Milli Vanilli, referring to the duo that infamously had to return their Grammy Awards more than 30 years ago after it was revealed that they did not sing on their album.
Oh, for heaven's sake, like somebody needs to explain Milli Vanilli.
A short time later, Jericho, who made his name as a wrestler before starting Fozzy, wrote in a tweet, I've seen the derogatory comments towards me from somebody I considered to be a friend. So with that in mind, I'll be happy to have a sing-off with Sebastian Bach. No effects, no tuning, no bullshit. Boss, I guess that's his nickname, is a great singer, but I'm better. You've got my number, dude. Call me. Bach then shot back, where's the derogatory comment? All I asked is to see one single clip of you singing live.
God damn.
Every clip on the internet is you miming to a tape. I will sing in your, I guess he was going to say fucking face, but it's F star face. Wrestling is not rock and roll. I will show you fucking rock and roll. Chris responded, I've never mimed anything ever. And I don't use star in a tweet ever. I will fucking sing in your face anytime, any place, dude. I've been a fan and defender of you. I've been a fan and a defender of you since day one. But don't you ever question my rock abilities. And leave wrestling out of this.
This has got to be a work. It's got to be an angle. Grown men don't talk like this. They say, hey, motherfucker, I'll fuck you the fuck up. Meet me out in the goddamn parking lot No guns, no knives I can buy, but don't question my rock abilities.
Bach then wrote, "You're full of shit, bro. Check your text. Set up the sing-off. I'm ready when you are."
Your text.
Another Jericho fan took the Fozzy vocalist side, writing, "Take it as a compliment. Champion," I guess Le Champion or whatever he calls himself, "your singing is so spot on, it sounds like the record Red Heart." I don't know what that means. Prompting Bach to respond, "That's because the record is fake and the live show is fake."
What's it mean?
Another person wrote, "Don't ever question the Ayatollah of rock and rolla," which was met by Bach with, "The Ayatollah of rock and rolla doesn't know anything about rock and rolla." Sebastian, who has been outspoken about rock bands using pre-recorded backing tracks during live shows, then added, "I'm not trying to beat anybody at anything. I'm actually trying to say, hey, Chris, maybe you're right. Maybe I'll stop singing live and prance around while the tape is playing just like you do, Chris. I'm tired of trying so hard. It's like beating my head against the wall." Fozzy guitarist Rich Ward also weighed in on the dispute.
Well, I was waiting to see what he was going to have to say about this.
"Anytime I have witnessed Sebastian's name come up in a group setting, the room enthusiastically lines up to say the worst things about him. He's universally disliked. Never witnessed a more unifying topic. I Am Jericho," that's his Twitter handle, "has always come to the guy's defense and shuts it down. Jericho is loyal and was always quick to defend the guy that he considered a friend. Seeing Sebastian publicly go after the only guy that I have ever witnessed utter a nice word about him is sad." When a Twitter user pointed out that Sebastian Bach is trending, Bach wrote, "I don't know why I'm trending. I'm just drunk sitting alone in my bed." Jericho has been suspected of relying on backing tapes during Fozzy's live performances. When the band played in Canada in November 2018, several concert goers accused Jericho of singing along to pre-recorded tracks. So this is kind of it. Let me see if there's anything else here at the end. It looks like that may be... oh, no, it looks like there's some other stuff. "Wow, my band is more popular than Sebastian Bach," Chris Jericho wrote.
Isn't that really like being the nicest guy in prison, though? Because we're not talking about fucking Robert Plant here, for fuck's sake.
Sebastian Bach wrote back, "That's great. Is there a clip of you actually singing live? Because all I've seen are clips of you miming to a tape. Congrats on the radio hits. And your hair is certainly looking good these days." And yeah, and it went back and forth more. So Chris Jericho, you know, like a comedian being accused of stealing jokes.
Has there ever been a tape produced of him singing live?
I don't know. I've always said that Chris Jericho's a pretty shitty singer, that he sounds like Chris Jericho when he sings. And, you know, his band is not, I'm sorry, you can't consider Fozzy a serious band. It's a vanity project.
I like Judas.
It's great until he starts singing. The vocals are what kills that song. It's a good instrumental track with really bad vocals.
Who wrote it?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
It's good lyrics. Maybe somebody else just needs to sing it.
Do you think he was making a comment about his place in wrestling, being with AEW? Judas?
I'm becoming.
So whose side are you taking here? Sebastian Bach's or Chris Jericho's?
Well, I got to be honest. I can't really follow that up with a lot of commentary because I think Sebastian Bach said it all tape up or shut up. I can't believe these are actually grown men in their 50s. At least when I cuss Russo, I vow mayhem instead of these backhanded compliments.
Well, here's some more. Someone tweeted at Sebastian Bach, "Chris Jericho, Le Champion, will definitely beat your ass. I'm a massive Sebastian Bach fan, but Jericho is no Patrick Swayze. This won't end in a stolen model." This is a reference to the show Trailer Park Boys, one of the best shows ever. But to the idea that he would beat Sebastian Bach's ass, Sebastian Bach replied, "Well, he better reach up then," because Sebastian Bach obviously would tower over Chris Jericho. Yeah, this is pretty funny stuff.
Oh, so Jericho not only is taken to the distance by a fucking guy with his hands in his pockets, but he's putting over middle-aged alcoholic rock stars on Twitter.
From New Jersey.
I got no finish for that bit. Maybe we ought to just go back to the program. Anyway. God, there's more of this shit. I'm not lying to you. The worst is yet to come. The Jurassic Express in a 6-man tag with the backbone of the elite. Road Warrior Buck, his brother Balding Buck, and Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. And not only that, but Jericho is going to do color. Drenched in orange juice.
With his bald spot completely showing because of all that liquid. You noticed it?
Completely evident.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was weighed down a little bit there. But first of all, they did an interview with Alex Marvez, who was the most personable one of the bunch between Marco Stunted Growth, Dino Douche, and Jungle Boy. Stunt actually spoke. He sounds indeed like he looks, like a little fucking girl. Dino Douche did his 65 million year line again. And Jungle Boy pretty much just stood there. Then
embarrassing. It was embarrassing, that interview.
Here's the fucking thing. Jurassic Express versus the Bucks and Omega. Once again, who are the heels? Who are the baby faces? All these people are popular. Why is this match taking place? So they can do some gymnastics. And that's what they did on this parody wrestling program. While Chris Jericho, the biggest mainstream name in the company, whined and griped on color about having orange juice dumped on him by some outlaw goof with his hands in his pockets, a bunch of small children had a gymnastics meet in a wrestling ring, and Adam Page, meanwhile, was cut away to several times drinking at a bar. Of course, the little freak of nature, Stunted Growth, worked with Twinkle Toes McFingerbang, of course, because he was Stunted Growth, approximately the same size as the little 9-year-old girl that Olivier liked to have his matches with, and who knows what else he fucking did with her. So then Stunted Growth did some obviously fake shit. Then the world's greatest wrestling artist was competitive with a small child that doesn't weigh 120 pounds and doesn't scratch 5 feet tall. Then they all did some more gymnastics where you couldn't tell who was on offense. Then everybody assembled on the outside of the floor so that Kenny Olivier, and Jericho even called it, so he's going to do his dive now. They did a big dive onto everybody, and everything came to a screeching halt so they could go to the break. So that, of course, you don't want any goddamn excitement going into a break. You just want a guy jumping on a bunch of people. They all fall down and everything comes to a screeching halt. You don't know who's in charge. On the other side of the break, they came back with a bunch of small children's gymnastics and dangerous bumps. But then, for a change of pace, Dino Douche got in, and instead of being a small child doing gymnastics, it was Tom McGee in 1986 doing kicks again. Have you noticed that? The one thing this guy could do that stands him apart from everybody else, I'm talking about Dino Douche in AEW, is he could go in and work like a big kick-ass monster big man with all the tattoos and the physique, and then do a move or two where he flips or flies or whatever the fuck to show he can do it, but he's a big guy and it would get over. But instead, he not only tries to do all the little guy shit, but he tries to do these kicks. He ain't Damian Priest level. It's Tom McGee level. And he just looks like an awkward fuck doing shit he don't know how to do. So, I summed up this match so far. There's no baby faces, there's no heels, there's no logic, there's no story, there's no set of heat, there's no comeback. Just endless moves for no reason, sometimes all 6 of them at a time, sometimes 4 guys disappear and watch from the outside, obviously, for their next spot where they jump in. There's no tags, there's no rules, there's no nothing. Just a bunch of guys acting like they're having a video game fight. And the freak stunt managed to be the biggest turd in this mud show outhouse, but I would say that this is probably the worst match in the history of AEW television. Just for everything that you would grade a goddamn wrestling match by or expect to see out of it. This was the worst. And it wasn't even really the funniest thing they've ever done. So this wasn't funny or silly or exciting. It was just stupid. And then, did you see the part where every single one of them, all of them, helped hold? Well, I don't even know who was giving the move and who was taking the move. I think Road Warrior Buck took the move. So some way, they did like one of those gymnastics towers where all the people on America's Got Talent go whoop, whoop, and they all jump up on each other. And then the little freak of fucking nature that ought to be goddamn thrown in a trunk and dropped off a bridge, stunted growth, does the Canadian Destroyer onto Road Warrior Buck over the top rope, off the top rope, into the ring, and gets a 2 count. And his own brother was standing there. The Buck's brother was standing there helping steady the tower so that this little goof could jump up and give his brother a fucking... Did you see that?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Did I describe it in any way accurately?
They were all helping each other set it up. The one guy was holding the other guy's leg. It was ridiculous.
And then the balding Buck, the brother, as soon as the little freak gave Road Warrior Buck the move, then balding Buck suddenly fell down again like nobody was going to notice that he was holding the fucking opponent up steady to do this. But nobody's going to notice. This is funny. This is fucking funny. If I wasn't done forever with the wrestling business, this wouldn't be funny. But now that I've officially said I will never be a part of this horse shit ever again for anybody, this is fucking funny. Anyway, so the comedy tumbling team on the local talent show continued their routine, and then finally, Olivier worked with Stunt a minute more, and then Olivier pinned him with his fucking one-winged fairy move or whatever. And then sat there and smiled and mugged and made faces and pointed at the camera like he is wont to do. And then got on top of Stunt and started punching him in the fucking face again. Now he turned heel on Marco Stunt. And then the Bucks come and run over and pull him off of beating up Marco Stunt. And then he acts like, oh, well, I just lost my head. Have we now officially put to bed any serious talk whatsoever from any source of Kenny Omega actually ever being any kind of star on American television ever? Can we go ahead and put that to bed now?
I mean, we can, but people will still argue it. But this is a guy who...
Well, people are still advocating for Donald Trump to lead the fucking free world, but we see what kind of fucking morons they are.
This is a guy that if you were a fan that was accepting of all different types of wrestling, for years you would say he was pretty good or very good. And then he had 2 years working with Okada, where he got proclaimed to be the best wrestler in the world. And then since that time, he's been just a guy on that show. And he's riding on the expectations that he's going to become New Japan Omega again. And it's ridiculous. And it's completely ridiculous.
Okay, so the sad thing about this match is the only guy in the match, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Marco Stunted Growth versus the Bucks and Olivier, the only guy in this match that actually legitimately can be a big-time star on American television. Not in this company. They can't have any big stars on this television show. But Jungle Boy could eventually, in wrestling, be a huge fucking star in the WWE. And he could make a ton of money. And he could be merchandised all over the world, and he could be a baby face that gets his ass kicked but has that appeal and comes back. It won't happen because he will never learn to work in matches like this. He will learn how to do this shit, which will never be allowed on WWE television or anywhere else but this fucking shithole. He will learn bad habit after bad habit. He's listening to these guys on the other side of the ring because they claim they're veterans, and he's not bright enough to know that they don't know what they're doing. But he has the potential. A babyface that sells and comes back when all hope is lost. You could draw serious money with this fucking guy, and people would like him. But he will never learn. If he went to NXT and got trained and then worked with veterans that knew what they were doing and had professional agents in charge of him instead of this, hey, kids, let's put on a show shit, you could get this fucking guy over and he could make a ton of money. It's a shame because he's going to be wasted. In matches like this, he will never learn anything. And he'll be doing the same shit in 5 years as he is now, and he'll be in the same place if this place is still around. That's the sad thing. Any comments on your part?
No, I didn't like it at all. I'm just down on AEW completely. I love FTR. I really like Taz's promos. I like MJF when we actually get to see him, or he does something. There's just so much bad shit and so much stupid shit, and I don't like it at all. I didn't like this. Is there anyone who's worked with Marco Stunt who hasn't sold for Marco Stunt?
No.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, this was over the top and just egregious. I mean, but even Lance Archer, whatever, they still sold shit, even though they were trying to make it somehow plausible. But no, he's an insult and an embarrassment. And it just makes this whole program look low rent. And this is why they all hate me. Because I tell the truth. And because this is what everybody else is seeing also. Anybody that ever gave a shit about wrestling fans don't watch AEW. Comedy fucking flippy gymnastic fans watch AEW. People that actually like professional wrestling are offended by this. But the billionaire has been sold a bill of goods and hired a bunch of friends, and they've got to fucking go out and earn their money. So this is what we get. And then, by the way, then Marvez was back again with Shida. Did you notice Shida's interview? The women's champion. Shida's interview basically said, and Marvez prepped her and then she followed up on it, 4 out of 5 of the top girls in the company can't be here. So it's Nyla Rose. Oh, gosh. And then Shida said, acted like she was completely unconcerned. Well, if she's the only one, I guess I'll face her. So instead of building up the beast that's about to come out and introduce her new manager, they presented it like, well, since 4 out of 5 of the really good girls can't be here, you're going to be wrestling Nyla Rose because that's the only option. Is that the way it came off to you?
Yeah, but what do you want? The booker of the women's division had his first exposure to alcohol tonight.
Good Christ. I wish he'd be exposed to something out of the fucking Bolivian rainforest so we could get rid of him once and for all.
Alex Marvez is so awful. He's like negative charisma. Holding the microphone. Even that, it's negative charisma.
He pronounced all the words right this time, though. That beats his previous attempts.
Dasha. They have Dasha working there. Every time she's been used on camera, she's been really good. Whether it was a ring announcer filling in for Justin Roberts, who is the worst ring announcer in the history of the wrestling business. He is just awful as a ring announcer.
Don't get me to say anything about Justin Roberts. I don't want it to either be taken the wrong way or possibly prophetic.
He is pathetic as a ring announcer. Just complete fucking garbage. And they have Dasha there, who when filling in did a great job. They don't use her in that role. She's better as a backstage interviewer. They got Marvez there because he's friends with Tony Khan. Ridiculous. But anyway, what was next on the stupid show?
I don't want to make any more prophetic comments about Justin Roberts, so we'll continue. John Moxley did a promo in front of a fence. I'm serious. He did a promo in front of a fucking fence. This is the budget of this fucking television program. He was out in a parking lot in front of a wire fence. And you know what I thought? I thought if only Dr. Death Steve Williams could cut a promo like John Moxley, or John Moxley looked like Dr. Death Steve Williams. There's money. It's like I told Batista one time in OVW. I said, if I could transplant my brain in your body for 2 years, both of us would retire multimillionaires. John Moxley talks like he's a badass, and he looks like John Moxley. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin cosplay. And is the whole violence thing, and that's an excuse for him to have the garbage matches and the outlaw bullshit he did on the indies that Vince wouldn't let him do. But he does cut a very good promo. If he in any way worked or looked like a badass to carry off the promo, it's great. But he looks like fucking John Moxley. So if he could talk like John Moxley and look like Dr. Death Steve Williams, you'd have $1 million talent. Or if, God bless him, if Dr. Death Steve Williams, who couldn't say suey if the hogs had him, as my mother used to say, could have talked like John Moxley, Bill Watts could have fucking owned the wrestling world. But instead, Moxley looks and talks like Moxley, and Dr. Death looked and talked like Dr. Death. But after that promo in front of the fence, just to brighten things up, we had the Nightmare Sisters. Allie and Brandy are now a tag team. Allie was a bunny, and she was a heel, and she was fucking the butcher and the baker because she was the candlestick maker. But suddenly she dropped the bunny ears and became a babyface for no apparent reason. I guess they did that on YouTube. And
let me stop you there. I don't watch their YouTube show because it's dog shit. However, I was told, because I asked a couple people about this who I know do watch it, I was told there was never any explanation as to why she went from the Butcher and the Blade to QT Marshall to being a part of the Nightmare family or whatever this is. There's never been any explanation. It's just another example, this one a small one, of why the AEW booking is so shitty. They can't even fill in the details to make things make sense.
Well, now, Brandy was a heel at first, even though Cody was a babyface, but then suddenly they just dropped that whole thing with Brandy and Awesome Kong because it didn't make any sense, and Brandy became a babyface.
Now, apparently that was something on either the YouTube show or as a YouTube clip where Brandy went to a psychiatrist, and I guess they cured her of whatever was causing her to come out with the Awesome Kong and
God damn.
And
all
cut
right.
people's hair, and they had the bald girl who's, I forgot, I don't even know what's happened to her.
Oh, yeah, well, and remember Dr. Luther, the only fucking 50-year-old Canadian to ever work for outlaw Japanese groups, actually got a contract out of this sucker.
Well, why shouldn't Jericho be able to hire his friends if everyone else is doing it?
Well, and they shaved that girl's head. You're right, they shaved that girl's head, and we haven't seen her again. I bet good rib. Bet she looks great going to the grocery now, wearing a mask and no hair on her fucking head. Speaking of goddamn wait, okay, this was Allie and Brandy with Dustin there for no apparent reason but to just fucking embarrass him against Kenzie Page and MJ Jenkins. Go back and look, ladies. Was MJ Jenkins' Sonny Kiss wearing a wig?
Oh, come on. That's unfair.
MJ Jenkins looked like and pirouetted on her introduction like Sonny Kiss wearing a wig. I watched about 45 seconds of it. It was horrid indie level girl wrestling on national TV, and I fast forwarded. So I have no idea what happened, and I don't care. Did I miss anything?
No, you missed nothing.
Good. Moving on. Nyla Rose was introduced and came out to do a promo. And it was okay. She was there to introduce her new manager. She was given some words to say, and she pronounced them correctly. That's what it sounded like. She was saying what she was told to say. And then here comes Vicky Guerrero. And Vicky Guerrero's promo brought this up a few notches because I have never met her in my life. Never met her in person. Have not seen a lot of her because she was on the WWF TV when I really watched none of it. But she instantly brought this fucking promo level of this show up a couple of notches because she just sounded like a fucking bitch and meant it. She sounded like a shrieking, shrewish cunt. So at least they've got a goddamn heel manager now. Because Jake is supposed to be a heel manager, but his fucking monster murder hawk gets beat up by every midget in town. Arn's a babyface manager with a heel babyface for a client. Tully sits in the audience a lot and scouts. So now they had Taz. Taz is a heel manager that's cutting fucking promos that are more witty, incisive, and cutting than anybody else. And so he's kind of a babyface. So now they've got a heel manager, Vicky Guerrero. I like this little piece for whatever good this will do in the overall scheme of things. Are you a Vicky Guerrero fan?
I mean, she seems like a nice person, but I'm not into the whole yelling, excuse me, over and over. I'm not into taking a WWE act and putting it on this show. There seems like all these managers are WWE people.
Well, yeah.
Everyone has a goddamn manager now.
Well, and because they have that experience, they actually know how to talk on television. So it shows. I'm not saying it's wise. It shows up their in-ring talent as being inferior to the old timers. But at least if I have to listen to this shit, I'd rather listen to Vicky Guerrero than goddamn a bunch of green fucking pepper trees.
I think Nyla Rose is one of the few women in that division who has shown herself able to do a promo. That's not the person I'd give a manager to.
Well, but you're thinking logically. I didn't say she needed a manager either. I said if I have to listen to this fucking program and I have to listen to girls speak, Vicky Guerrero is one of the girls I want to listen to speak.
I can't wait for Robert Stone to leave NXT so AEW will hire him.
Oh, good God.
Leave
he
the
can
WWE.
be Tony Khan's brother then.
If you're over the age of 45 and you don't want to wrestle, leave WWE. AEW will hire you to be a manager.
All right. Well, our main event is still to go in this parade of terror. Once again, quoting the Ghost and Mr. Chicken. I'm trying to have fun with this. Taz came out and cut a promo with Cage, and that was great as usual. Here comes Moxley, and this is what I wrote. I am so sick of Moxley acting like the world's biggest badass already. And remember I said on the watch along of Vader and Michaels, yeah, it was a great match for Michaels to have, but it didn't do anything for Vader. This was a great match for Moxley. Well, it wasn't even a great match by any means, but it was a fine match for Moxley to have, but didn't do a goddamn thing for Cage, in my opinion. They started at 100 miles an hour again, but I wrote, Cage has a ton of potential. He's just green, but he can move for that size. He can do things. He looks good. Where are you going to find a physique like that? But he's also a good-looking guy. He's got a good manager. So the first thing that happens with this new heel is that the fucking babyface champion comes in and immediately fucking out-heels him. Works on his bad arm. He's already said he's going to cripple the fucking guy. And so as he's working on Cage's bad arm that he's had surgically repaired. So Moxley, the champion's the heel, and the heel is the guy with the manager, and he's the babyface. And then Moxley has to do a dive, because why wouldn't he? Everybody else does. And they then go out into the arena, because Moxley can't have a match in the fucking ring. And the announcer's having to grasp at straws to explain why the referee's standing there watching everything and nobody's getting counted out. And Moxley gets a guardrail, and now it's every indie match ever in any rec center in your local facility. And this is nothing to make Cage is fighting him back. And that in the minute, small pea brains of today's modern wrestlers, including apparently Moxley, who went to the WWF all those years and didn't learn a goddamn thing, because he's apparently so fucking stupid. If brains were gasoline, he couldn't propel a Flea's motorcycle around a raindrop. Cage is new. Cage is a project that has to get over. You're a fucking ex-WWF talent, you idiot. And you're allegedly supposed to know how to work. So put his shit over in the ring at the beginning to give him credibility, then find a chink in his armor and then overcome him, and then start kicking his ass to where he has to cheat and use his manager to help get the offense, and then let him get some heat on you. And then he fucks up and you make a big comeback and then go wherever you're going. But you don't just start off like you think this guy's over because he's been on television twice and you're kicking his ass all over the arena. And then they're outside for 2 to 3 minutes with nobody being counted out. And then Cage blasts Moxley or blisters him or fucking knocks him down or something. And the to break question by JR is, can Moxley continue? And my answer was, I hope not. Because this has already gone so fucking long. They come back, and Moxley's in the camel clutch. Cage is on top of him, and then they go back out to the floor. Can John Moxley have a match in the fucking ring? Then Cage suplexes Moxley through a metal chair, flattens it out, tosses him back in the ring, and Moxley immediately starts a comeback. A bunch of fucking back and forth stuff. Cage is hitting some big moves, but none of them work. Here's another lesson. Don't have the guy hit every big move he has the second time he's on TV when he ain't fucking winning. Then Moxley gets an arm breaker. Forever. And forever. And forever. He got to the point where it's worse than when Flair used to milk the figure four, and I hated that too when he kept getting it on guys and never winning forever. But then Cage tries to get out of that, and Moxley rolls over and gets another goddamn arm lock. And he's cranking it, and Taz threw in the towel. You mean to tell me the second time this guy's been on television, did he win his first match? Did they give him a job guy match first, Cage? I think they did. He beat somebody, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Second time he's on television for the world title to begin with. Second time a motherfucker's on television, you got a world title match. They're so fucking stupid to begin with. But against the world champion, he gets his ass kicked all over the arena, and he can't then be caught with a fluke 1, 2, 3 by the world champion to give him an out. They think that what they did was giving him an out because he didn't tap the manager through the towel in. What they did was the Stone Cold Steve Austin cosplay bullshit champion held Brian Cage down, immobilized him, rendered him helpless and unable to escape, and his manager saved him from damage to his fucking arm, as the announcers mentioned, that would require surgery if he'd held the hold any longer. I'm really scared of Brian Cage now. Is it so simple and so logical that it's just beyond their grasp, or are they just so far gone away from what wrestling is that they think that they gave this guy an out when in actuality they buried him flattered in 4 o'clock, plate full of piss level? Which is it? Do you know? I can't figure it out.
I'm not sure. I think you have a lot of guys there who think they know better and can't accept the fact.
You mean to tell me that Moxley couldn't fucking make a comeback and hit 2 or 3 false finishes that Cage still kicked out of strong? And then suddenly when Cage went to put him away, Moxley uses his superior intellect, I said that without laughing, and fucking gets a quick one. As they used to say, Vince used to hate that expression, win a quick one. But gets a quick one, boom, 1, 2, 3, and he's out on the floor. Moxley is, and Cage is in the ring to bitch. What the fuck? The champion is smarter. But that doesn't mean he's badder or stronger. That's still to be proven. Now the champion just took this motherfucker down, held him down, rendered him helpless, unable to escape, and had to be saved by his manager. Because at least he was so gutsy he wouldn't quit. Well, he just made him a babyface, didn't they? Fucking morons. You fucking imbeciles. I wouldn't let you book a goddamn world-class wrestling spot show in Harlingen, Texas, much less a national TV show. Oh, by the way, it's not over yet, because since Taz just threw the towel in for his man Cage to avoid serious injury and other surgery, Brian, you'd think that arm would be a little sore, wouldn't you, if it was that bad of a hold that he got put on him, a holt, as they used to say down south. If that was that bad of a holt that boy got put on him, wouldn't his arm be sore?
Oh, sure. I remember how bad Backlund's back was when Arnold Skolin threw in the towel. It still hurt right after he got out of that camel clutch.
Absolutely. Well, Cage gets up, not selling the arm, grabs the title belt, hits Moxley, and then fucking shakes his arm, then hit him with some horrible fake punches. Go back, ladies and gentlemen. If the rest of this match didn't expose Brian Cage as greener than chlorophyll, go back and watch these punches. They were almost like the phantom punches that the Dork Order guy caught all the heat for on this fucking amateur fucking talent show program months ago. Just horrible, exposed Brian Cage. He's being allowed to or told to do shit he can't do. So then there's a blackout. And then when the lights come back on, Darby Allin's on the top rope. Of course, they got his music playing now because he cued the music guy and the lighting guy in. Darby Allin's on the top rope, jumps off and hits Cage with the edge of his skateboard in the throat, and Cage takes a bump out on the floor. Darby Allin was dressed, I swear to God, like he was just in a car wreck, and it looked like the car had caught on fire. I mean, his shirt was ripped up. There were some sweatpants and a coat that looked like it had been on fire, or just like he'd been in some kind of wreck or run off side of the road. Does he dress like that? Normally?
I don't know.
Anyway, so the new top heel that's built like a Greek god that was just totally immobilized and emasculated tried to get a little heat back after the match, but instead was run out of the ring along with his manager, the human suplex machine, by a fucking 160-pound guy with a skateboard. Yeah. Flatter than a plate full of piss as an ending to a television program. And I guess we're supposed to laugh, right? Because they're not serious. They can't be serious. It's all supposed to be fun and silly, right? That's right? Because nobody's trying here, are they?
They're trying to run me off, I think, because I hated this show so much. And for those of you who go, oh, NXT wasn't that great either, you're right. NXT wasn't that great either.
Yes, we mentioned that. One wrestling match and a friendly grudge match and a goddamn half of an interview.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm more than happy never watching this again. To be very honest with you.
But we have to now.
Oh.
Because I think it's going to get worse. I'm not in any way going to ever watch AEW seriously again, expecting anything to be good, but I am going to, because that's what we're supposed to do. Wrestling's supposed to be silly and fun. So I'm going to watch the silliest, funniest wrestling show on the air every week, regardless of what else we watch. Sometimes it'll be classics, sometimes it'll be pay-per-views, sometimes it'll be NXT. But I'm going to watch the silliness and the funniness every week and let everybody know exactly how silly and funny it is. Even if I'm bringing them a couple of 100,000 viewers back, I feel it's my civic duty to make sure that everybody knows the right way that wrestling's supposed to be done and how it's all supposed to be silly and funny. And what was the ratings? All right, here we'll close the show. What was the ratings? Did NXT hand it off with 30 minutes of women's wrestling, or did AEW hand it off with 2 hours of bullshit?
Well, again, reminder, NXT had 2 weeks in a row of Sasha Banks and then the big Adam Cole-Keith Lee match last week. This week, they took a hit. AEW, 788, NXT, 631.
So they flipped from last week.
Well, no, actually, technically, they flipped from June 24th. June 24th, it was AEW 633, NXT 783. And this week, it's 788 to 631. It's basically telling you there's a pool of viewers out there, and they're going from one to the other based on what they think is going to be on the show.
We brought 200,000 people back to AEW, so they won the fucking ratings of the night.
But we lost because one of the things you brought back was me, and I don't know if I want to watch this. It's so bad. We definitely lost. I hate AEW.
We as people lost out bigger than anybody because we had to watch both shows. But we brought our 200,000 people back that wants to watch this as a fucking rib, and they were able to defeat NXT, who just put on a bland show and gave them the last 30 minutes. Wow, what a tremendous triumph. I bet Jericho will be in the ring bragging about that one next week. Yeah, Cornette, at least he brought our 200,000 fucking rib fans back, so we were able to beat the developmental program on the other channel because they gave us 30 minutes of fucking women's wrestling for a main event.
You know, months ago, whenever I would tweet out a critique of AEW as it was happening on TV, I would get a good amount of people agreeing with me and a fair amount of people telling me I was wrong and trying to explain why AEW is great. Last night, I tweeted out several critiques of the show as it was happening, and it was almost 100% in agreement with me. I don't know what that says, because I have a lot of people who follow me on Twitter who aren't in agreement with me on everything I think about wrestling. And they will try to argue their points about various things.
What ammunition did they have last night?
There's none. It's shitty wrestling. There's wrestling and there's shitty wrestling. This is shitty wrestling.
Well, now here's the question for next week, because the ratings, once again.
And I'll say the truth, because I'm not interested in working for those fucking idiots.
Well, I think, join the club. My interest is at an all-time low. At one point, I'm like, well, I could go in there and kick somebody in the balls and run off. And no. But here's the thing. Do the quality of these shows affect the ratings for these shows? Or as I've always thought, do they affect the rating for the following week's show? In other words, you didn't fucking know that this show was going to suck donkey cock until you watched it.
But you knew there was nothing marquee on NXT.
Yes, but no, I'm not talking about NXT. I'm talking about AEW.
That's the same people. It's the same people. The people that went to the AEW show this week that weren't there last week.
They just switched sides. They're turncoats. They're double agents.
Once again, let me go through the AEW viewership from a month ago. 633. Last night, 788. NXT viewership a month ago, 783. Last night, 631. It's the exact same numbers flipped.
But I'm just saying, at some point, everybody's patience runs out. And I've always said that bad ratings are a result of previous bad shows that may have done high ratings. Because the more people that watch a shitty show, the more people that have decided, I don't want to see any more of that shit. So when you have a shitty show with a high number, it later leads to crummy numbers even for good shows. This is my belief. I've always said this going back to all the stupid arguments about the Monday night ratings wars when everybody was freaking out over quarter hours. So don't worry about the next 15 minutes. Worry about the next 4 weeks. So anyway.
I can't wait for fucking baseball. That's like the only thing I have to look forward to.
There's
right
going to be no
Wednesday
baseball.
Nights.
There's going to be no baseball ever again.
I'm hoping there's going to be baseball in 10 days or whatever it is. On Wednesday nights, I just want to be able to watch the Mets. My mood will improve so much. I won't have to watch either one of these stupid fucking shows live. I could zoom past it the way you do. It's just not
Well,
good.
it's your fault you watch it and not be able to skip ahead.
Well, I want to get it out of the way. I don't want to wait. Like, that's the thing. I get one show out of the way, and then I'm like, I'll watch the other one. Then I say to myself, I can't watch 2 of these in a row.
That's why I have to watch them 2 in a row because I can't stay up that late on Wednesday night, goddamn sitting through this shit. So I watch them 2 in a row, but I try to watch the one that I won't piss me off the most the first. But I don't want to wait till that show is over. I want to zip ahead. Oh, yes, I do.
I want to watch FTR matches. I was high on Brian Cage until they used him.
Yeah.
It's no one who I want to hear talk ever talks.
MJF sits in the crowd.
If you do a good promo, you're not going to be able to do a good promo you're not going to be able to do any promos on that show for 3 weeks at least.
That's a rule, right?
Tully says something one week, he's in the crowd for the next month. Arn Anderson says something at that press conference a few weeks ago, nothing since. Jake?
Hey, by the way, I've written more hours of wrestling television than any human being walking the face of the planet right now, except maybe for Heyman. Actually, I've written more because Heyman never wrote hours of television. He just shot a bunch of shit and put it together in post. There's always a way for 30 seconds or 45 seconds, especially on a 2-hour program, to expose all of your talents, either working or talking or in a VTR from the previous week, or some way to further their identity, not doing what Shitstain used to do, putting everybody on the roster in an angle and just hot-shotting the show to death, but everybody needs to be represented, and your top guys need to be represented in different ways. I had a chart for every television program that I formatted. It would be Ring of Honor, OVW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, WCW, WW, whatever the case. Everybody on the roster, are they working? Are they talking? Are they seen in a VTR? Is the promo doesn't have to be live. It can be in a backstage, locker room, VTR, whatever. All my top guys would be seen somehow in all of those categories. but everybody would be seen in at least one of them unless it was just some fucking job guy schlub. They can't even figure out how to do that right. Elementary 101 wrestling television show formatting. If you got people in your fucking territory, some way or another, they get their face or their nose or their voice or something on the program, and they're identified as to who they are. They're not just people that wander up on each other in the back and start fighting for no reason after nobody's called even anybody's name. I can't go on with this anymore. I'm trying to be happy and silly. But that was both shows. And NXT once again wins in terms of quality because they actually had something of quality. AEW wins the ratings based on the 200,000 swing viewers that are just watching this as a fucking rib. And the biggest rib is on both you and me because we had to watch both of them.
And say what you want about that Cody Sonny Kiss match.
Sonny Kitch? It's, boy, if his name was Sonny Kitch, I'd like it better.
Say what you want about that match. That match was the least problematic thing on this whole show.
Which shows you how far they deteriorated from there. Because that was a fucking, just a joke. If Cody's father saw Cody do that display with a guy that's obviously green, way over his fucking head, in a goofy gimmick, and nobody could tell who was the babyface and who was the heel, Dusty wouldn't have aired that on television. It just made Cody look worse instead of anybody looking better. Just a fucking abomination all the way around. And that was the best thing on the show. So there you go.
Couldn't have MJF talk. We had to hear from Sheeta. I mean, it just... MJF, why is he there if he's just going to sit in the crowd and you barely show him?
He's there to collect his multi-thousands of dollars for the week that he deserves and I'm sure would love to work for, but it's not necessary in that environment. I'm done with this program. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I really, truly wish we were done with this program.
I really, really, truly wish this program was done, but this is wrestling, folks. So we got to get used to it. So we're going to find some more fun and silliness next week and make sure to let everybody know exactly how funny and silly they all are.
How did we reverse
and
roles? How did this happen?
I bet it suddenly happened, but I've got with the program. It's modern wrestling, Brian. And I'm going to make sure that every time they do something silly and funny and phony and bullshit, I'm going to let everybody know about it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened and what should have happened or what was supposed to happen that got fucked up with my years of experience and my ability to be silly and have fun. You're just an old grump. You're out of touch, Brian. Go out in your front yard and yell at some clouds.
That sounds nice right about now.
Until next week, everybody, for all the wrestling fans out there, I feel your pain and I will continue to mock the people that sodomize in public the sport that you loved so long. And for the rest of you, kiss my big fat white ass. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye-bye, everybody.